Yeah, I think part of the problem is too is that we just don't know what Nikita means when he says the game's going to be open world. Like, what does that mean? Does that mean like DayZ, or does that mean like I'm going to load into a raid and be able to jump from one map to another? Like so. I guess at that point we're just stuck at speculation. But for
Yeah, I
me,
think that's the only way. That's the only way that I'd enjoy a completely open world is if there was a big faction war. Generally thinking about it, I'd love to be Bear versus
yeah, no, that
USEC,
sounds
and you'd
fun.
have to actually do raids. But then, like to do it, you'd have to be on individual servers and stuff, and you'd have to try and it's like a Minecraft server in a way. You invite loads of people, and you all just fight against each other. So it would be completely different. All the maps would have to grow about 5 million times bigger. But could you imagine, literally, you see an army of 100 PMCs running towards your place that you have to defend in dorms, and you're just on one of the LMGs and firing. I mean, it's insane the possibilities
As
thinking about it. But
as
Yeah,
chat saying,
quite
like, how
cool.
hard would it be to do quests? Someone's saying in
yeah.
chat. Can you imagine?
How do you get the
You're,
pocket watch?
you're trying
It's
to
in
get
the
the
middle of
pocket watch,
the.
and there's like, and there's like 6 GLs on each side, and there's like artillery going
Oh my
off and
god.
mortars
You
and all
guard that
sorts.
pocket watch with your life, soldier. You don't let any of those dirty USECs come and get it.
Can you
It's their
imagine
property, that pocket watch.
100 players at the start of a wipe trying to go to customs to do a pocket watch quest? That'd be
Oh.
Oh my
insane, dude.
god.
There would have to be like player
And it
limits
only
on
spawns
maps.
once every 15 minutes. The pocket watch has a reset timer.
Welcome to the Scavy Boys Podcast, our first episode. I'm excited, guys. Uh, I asked Giga and Shifty to join me today. The new podcast I'm starting. I've always had a passion for podcasting and gaming, and this just kind of lined up. And I really appreciate Giga and Shifty taking me up on this offer. Giga, would you mind introducing yourself for those of you who do not have the pleasure of knowing you?
Yeah, hey guys. So I'm Giga Beef. A lot of people starting to call me Giga online now. So I've been making YouTube and Twitch content for EFT for probably about 6 to 9 months, depending on exactly when you count when I started properly. But it's been a wild ride so far. I've been playing EFT for about a year and a half, 2 years, and just wanted to get into the whole content side of things a while back. And guys who are following on my stream so far, we've had a blast and learn new stuff every day. And this is kind of the next step in a very slightly different direction.
Very cool. Very cool. Shifty.
Yeah. So I just had a sneezing fit. So you press go, you count us down, and then we start the stream, and I'm sat here just sneezing away like I can't stop. It's crazy. Slightly embarrassing there, but yeah. Hi, I'm Shifty. Hi. I've been streaming for 3 months now. I'm probably in my 10th week of streaming, and I've been loving every single minute of it. I pride myself on having a very loving and community that like to rip the living hell out of me from time to time and laugh at all of my gameplay. I'd love to say that I was new to the game because it would explain how bad I am at it. But, unfortunately, I can't say that. I've got over 1,600 hours in game and I've been playing for 2 years now, and I've loved every second of it. So Tarkov for the win.
Very cool. Well, a little bit about me. I started playing EFT in early February, and I just absolutely love the game. One of the people that got me interested in EFT was General Sam's video. Forget which one, but I was subscribed to Aqua FPS, who was not doing EFT content at the time, but YouTube's algorithm recommended General Sam to me based off their relationship somehow or another. And just fell in love with the game. And as I stated earlier in the intro, I would just had a passion for podcasting and wanted to combine the two. And I'm really curious more about how you guys got into content creation, because I've always been a consumer, and this is sort of my first/second step into the content creation world. So, what sort of like inspired you guys or made you want to go this route?
I guess I could take that first, I suppose.
It's interesting because we both have completely different ways of getting into it, so it's going to be an interesting answer for both of us, I think.
Yeah, because actually, I'm not sure if I know this for you, Shifty. So this will be interesting for the two of us. I mean, yeah, for me, so the reason it's actually kind of it's almost a weird story because the reason why I started streaming in the first place was because Tarkov has no replay system, believe it or not, and I am really I still say it now, right? Even though I've been playing FPS for ages as kind of my main, I still see myself as a strategy game and an RTS player, really, at my very core. And that was kind of like always my thing and my forte. And those games always have replay systems in them, and you always watch your own games back, and you always watch other people's games. And it's just how you improve. And so it's always the way that I've kind of done it. And I used to watch replays back on PUBG as well to see like where people were, how to not make the same mistake again and try and improve my decision making. And it's always something that I've done. And in Tarkov, because you don't have that, I was like, well, you can stream on Twitch, and it's effectively just like a free recording service because you can keep your games for 7 days or whichever. And my sister actually used to stream before I did, because she used to stream Dota 2. So she's on like a Dota podcast and a few other things. And so she kind of like showed me how to set it up. And so I literally just used to use it from there for like either like funny clips to like just share with mates, and mostly for watching my deaths and seeing where people actually were, because right at the beginning it's super hard, right? And you just don't know where anybody is, and you get shot out of nowhere. And so at least you can like go back and look and say, okay, well, on this frame I can see the muzzle flash from this guy and he was hidden behind this thing, and you go, okay, fine, so that's where people are for the next time. And so that was really the beginning. But it was weird because there was a guy who it's kind of my first viewer ever, called Mega Heavy, and he used to be a follower. So my sister doesn't actually stream anymore because she's got too much other stuff going on. But he used to be one of her viewers, and he came. I'm not even sure how he managed to find me, but he came across and he started watching my stream, and it was weird because before I literally just had no viewers, and that was okay. But he would just be there, and then we'd chat and stuff, and it was really that just from that very first single one person, I was like, I wonder if I could actually do this. Like I hadn't really considered it before. And so from there, I was like, start to have a look into it. Did a couple of streams, and just started looking into the whole kind of world around streaming and what you need to do and that kind of stuff. And but then with 0 viewers, you don't get anywhere. And it was still a lot earlier on in my Tarkov career as well. So it wasn't really that good either. But after a while, I kind of wanted to make a bit more of it, and I started looking up stuff online, and I bumped into a few people around like Harris Heller and a couple of other guys who are kind of like sort of not coach, but they're like stream doctors kind of people, like how you actually get a following and this kind of stuff. And a lot of people recommended starting a YouTube channel, and that's something that I'd always wanted to do, which was like learn to do video editing, because I'd literally done none ever. I'm very much more of like I got my like a scientific background, and so I'd never used the Adobe suite at all. I've never used Photoshop. I've never used Premiere Pro until 2020, and I was like, I don't even know how you would put a video together from scratch. I literally had no concept. I was like, I know how to use MS Paint, so I kind of get Photoshop, right? It's just like an advanced version, but how do you actually how does a video even get formed?
Please tell me your first video featured MS Paint.
I don't think it does, actually, because that would have been way too complicated. And so then from there it was kind of like, oh well, this is a really nice project for me to be able to learn some of these skills that I wanted to learn just out of pure interest, and gives me a project to actually do it on, right? It's like if you're trying to learn a foreign language or something, but you never actually speak to anybody in that language, you're never going to learn. Or if you don't visit the country, you're never going to learn. So you need a project. It's like programming, like languages, like anything. You need something to actually use it for, otherwise you won't learn the skills. And so it was a really cool thing for me to be able to do that. And then it just kind of I got more and more into it and looked into more of it, and it's ended up actually becoming something quite cool. And I'm just really proud and thankful for the support that everybody's given me so far, getting to where I've got to, and we'll see where it goes.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm almost the complete opposite. I tried streaming about 3 or 4 years ago, as my wife will attest to, and I found it incredibly disheartening at the time. I think Twitch was a pretty mean place to be, because you would sit for hours and hours and hours and just talk to yourself, wonder if you had any viewers, and you wouldn't know what was going on. And you'd always want to become affiliate. That was the goal, was to get your sub button. And back then, of course, it wasn't really called affiliate. You just randomly got given your sub button. So back when I started trying to stream, Twitch would recognize, and I say recognize in inverted commas, because they would basically look at the analytics and see who had a lot of people going into their stream and who was doing well. And they would basically decide on a whim, from what I could tell, who actually got their sub button. There was no rhyme or reason as to actually how you got it. It was just given to you. And that was horrible because you would just sit there for ages. And obviously, I wasn't getting very much traction. I didn't know that many people. I was trying to play with friends that I was playing with before. And I was too naive as to think that I could actually make it as somebody at that point. I hadn't grown as enough as a person. So I kind of just gave up, as most people do. And I ended up um, years ago finding Tarkov, and my group of friends that I've played with for over a decade hated the game. Like, they could not stand the fact that it was that hardcore, that you
Mm.
couldn't see the HUD, didn't know how many bullets were in your gun, you could easily shoot your teammate. They hated it. And so I had to go in search of finding new people to play with. So I actually found a Discord community which
Mhm.
had a few thousand people in it. But on a regular basis, there was about 100 of us that would play daily on Tarkov. And obviously, you wouldn't play with all 100 in one day, but you would, jump between channels and you meet new people. And I made a lot of friends doing that. And I ended up becoming a manager of that Discord community for the Tarkov. I ran lots of events for them, and we had a lot of fun doing it. And over those 2 years, um, Discord halfway through brought out the ability to stream your
Mhm.
Discord channel. And what I found was that I would have lots of people, myself and my friend Jake TTV, who's another streamer. We would be playing together in duos, and we'd have people just ask if they can come and sit in our Discord channel and watch. And it was becoming more and more apparent that people were enjoying watching us play together. And ended up going from there into thinking, okay, well, let's give it Twitch another go. So I hadn't thought about it, but Jake said that he was going to give Twitch a go, and unfortunately, he's a complete technophobe. And I spent the best part of about 6 hours teaching him how to actually use OBS and get a stream up and going. And I thought, you know what, if I'm going to be sitting here helping you and sitting in your chat, I might as well just stream as well. And so it was just on
Uh-huh.
a complete whim months ago that I decided that I'd start my stream again and see what happened. And I actually got to affiliate within 7 days. So, literally
Wow.
7 days that you needed, I managed to get to affiliate, and it was an incredible feeling. I remember sitting there thinking, "Oh my god, I've got the email. This is insane." And I mean, there were a few tips and tricks that I can share to get yourself there, for sure, to guarantee that you get your average viewers, etc. But I think the fact that I was coming from a background with such a large Discord community behind me, I
Yeah.
already had people that I knew that would be willing to watch me play,
Mhm.
and actually it gave them a better platform in which to do that. Makes sense.
Yeah.
So I started streaming, and I'm a huge networker. So I'm always, my wife hates it. In my spare time, I'm always in other people's channels. I'm always saying hello to people. I'm always watching people on my night off, and it's kind of turned into a full blown passion as such. I won't call it a job because I don't really like jobs, but I really enjoy doing this. And I would genuinely love to start a YouTube channel and bits, but being a full time event manager, having a young family, and streaming 5 days a week for 6 hours odd at a time is already far too much that
Yeah.
I can currently do. So, I mean, further down the line, I'd love to, once I've got a bit more of an establishment and I've got a bit more time behind me, slash, I don't feel as into trying to make new things for my stream, and it's kind of settled into more of a rhythm, then I'd love to start trying to make videos and start making a YouTube channel and going that way. Whereas I kind of feel that Gigabeef, I kind of feel that your skills are incredible at making videos. I've actually linked nearly all of your videos into my Discord channel in the
Oh wow,
tutorial
thank you.
section, because they are just so detailed.
Yeah.
And I've actually had 4 people that have come into my channel and actually said, "Wow, that video is really good. I don't know who he is, but he's great." And I'm like, "Well, he's a streamer. You can go watch him, you know."
Thank you
So I
very
mean, I
much.
think your videos are great, but I don't have the attention span at the moment to be able to sit down and put that much information into something. I think if I was to make a video now, all it would be is a montage video, And who's going to watch a montage video from a guy who basically his montage is about team killing people? So I'm pretty sure that I'd get more dislikes than likes, if I'm honest.
That actually might be a pretty interesting video to watch, content-wise.
I suppose there is the exfil camper. Maybe I'll be the team killer.
Yeah.
Maybe that should be my
There
new
you
name.
go.
Exfil camper, Landmark, and Shifty the team killer.
Yeah, exactly. Just make it like a funny video. I'm pretty sure because like for you, we had this discussion last time on when you joined my stream, right? And like you've got way more of the technical skills than I do in terms of actually doing the stuff, right? Like I'm still learning so much about software. Like you were talking about After Effects, and I was like, I've never used After Effects, and like you have like so many skills that I don't have, right? But if I'm sure there's things that I could help you with on YouTube if you need to, in terms just of like
100%.
not in terms of the actual making of the videos necessarily, but just kind of like the meta.
Damn, I was about to say, I'll send you the content you create. That'd be brilliant.
But like YouTube's kind of its own beast, right? Like Twitch is actually quite a straightforward platform because it's it ranks everyone by viewers and people join your channel and you network with people and your hopefully your channel gets bigger if you're engaging with chat and people like your stuff. Like YouTube's a funny beast, it's the
well, no one knows the algorithm, do they?
Exactly,
so that's the problem, isn't it?
It's the unholy god from above that bestows fame and fortune on some and strikes others just into the gutter, and no one really knows exactly why or how. But there are ways. There are things you can do.
Yeah, no, 100%. But I mean, that's the thing is, I'd love to start doing that kind of thing, but I know full well that I would worry about all the little details in the video. I wouldn't spend far too long creating something, and actually nobody would notice that small detail that was incorrect because I've noticed it because I take a passion in trying to make it as best as I can possibly get. I know that somebody watching it would completely glance over that and wouldn't even notice the mistake, if that makes sense. And so that's kind of my downfall that I have to kind of get over. It's like gear fear in Tarkov. It took me all of about 3 months to get over the fact that I could lose gear. And once I did, I became a much better player because of it. I no longer cared if I lost gear. I mean, it upset me, but I didn't worry about taking something in as much or some stuff. So I think it's the same kind of concept, isn't it? I'm going to worry about the content I'm putting out and people judging me and how good that content can be, which will actually slow down growth considerably, and it would actually affect the algorithm for my channel. And
yeah, I think so. I mean, yeah, YouTube likes consistency, and it also I think it's funny because people always say stuff, right? Like I have people say things about my stuff very like since I started, and still have people say stuff now. And I look at the other the big creators, and they put stuff on Twitter saying like, yeah, people still say stuff to them now. And it's like, even if like 9,999 people watch a video and like it, and one person doesn't, they write a comment. That's the thing you're going to see and think, and it's like there's always someone who's going to write something about your stuff, and you just have to kind of like, again, it's like with the gear thing. It's like you go in and you do the best you can in the raid, and sometimes you die, and sometimes you get a crappy comment, and you just have to go, well, whatever. And a lot of other people liked it. So
I'm terrible for that. I have to admit, I am the worst person to react to it. So if something's really wound me up, if I've just gotten killed in a really stupid way, or I'm my blood pressure's up, I'm all hyped up, I've got adrenaline running through me, and someone just says the wrong thing, I just snap. I'm terrible for it. I'm really trying to stop it, but someone says, well, you're an idiot, or that was stupid, or GG, or something like that, and I'm just like, come on, don't mock, please. And I am terrible for it, really terrible.
Yeah.
See, Amy agrees. My wife agrees so much that I just snap at the wrong things, which is something to do with my personality, I'm sure. But that's probably the thing that I'm working hardest to try and change. Yeah, she said lots of door slamming, because it is. I have to get up, walk away, and calm down, and come back and be like, yeah, well, that happened. Let's move on. And yeah.
Yeah, I found
One of
that.
those things, isn't it?
What's that?
One of those things, isn't it? It's just it's personal growth.
Well, I've heard that it's a good practice to, like, when you have like a lot of comments, you just go on like the first one or two top comments and then you stop. If you come across a negative comment, you just end it there. Don't even bother. Just step away. So because it
I
can
don't
be
even mind
really
it.
toxic.
Yeah, I mean, if someone comes in, starts calling me a hacker or something like that, I feel quite honored, to be honest, because I've got
Yeah,
TTV in my name. So they come in
yeah.
and start calling you a hacker. I'm like, I can show you a million clips as to why I'm not a hacker, but still, yeah, no, one good play and I'm a hacker. But And even when they come in afterwards and they start goading the fact that they killed me, like that doesn't bother me at all. As long as I have good PvP, I don't mind dying. But it's when you die to something, when you die to Tarkov, shall we say, when you get desync or lag, or you don't even see the person and they come around the corner and you're just completely unaware that they're even there because you don't hear them. All those kind of things just frustrates me more than
For
anything.
sure. Yeah.
And you can watch it, but the genuine thing is, you can watch it on their screen, and they just come around the corner and see a dozy idiot walking down Skybridge without a care in the world because they have no idea that there's someone at the end. And you can watch it on my screen and see that I'm looking at the end and no one's come around the corner yet. They've obviously been there and shot you. So, I mean, that's just the kind of way that it goes. But it does irritate me sometimes.
Yeah. One of the things I've heard too, going back to like kind of like more the YouTube space where you get these negative comments, is that it can be so bad for a content creator where they almost end up subconsciously or intentionally looking for the negative comments. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it
because
can,
like you're kind of waiting
Self-destruct.
for it, right? You're
yeah,
kind of
like you're
waiting for it.
anticipating it almost.
Yeah,
It's like,
I
yeah,
think like it's kind of actually got a bit easier for me than it was. I think there's at the beginning it's really really hard because at the start you're trying to get literally anybody to watch your stuff. Like the route
right,
from if you've already got an established following, like it'll be easier for Shifty to go from what he has now to getting some some stuff on YouTube because you already have something, right? Like I had 0 viewers on Twitch and started with YouTube to begin with, and you're basically like there's like a couple of phases from getting from like 0 to 100, then 100 to 1,000, and then 1,000 plus, and then I don't know, we'll see. So I'm not really qualified to talk about it after that. But like zero to 100, you're genuinely kind of like marketing your channel to individual people to try to get them to subscribe, right? Like it's kind of in that zone. And so I was using Reddit a lot because the Reddit, I want to go and check the rules, and they do actually allow you to post stuff there. So long as it's
yeah,
not more than once every 2 days or something.
yeah,
And I was posting 2 videos a week anyway, and so I was putting them up there. But Reddit is like way worse for that than YouTube.
Yeah.
People are, it's like genuinely 50-50 of people who are like, this video is useful. And then other people just being like, this is crap, this is awful. Why are you even on here? The mods need, like, I genuinely had like people coming in being like, why haven't the mods dealt with this guy? All he does is come in and push his YouTube channel. And like other people coming back on him saying like, do you really just want people complaining about hackers and stuff? Like he's actually trying to provide useful information. So it's like it's that kind of, it's like a back and forth, but it's still annoying when people say that stuff. And it's a lot better now it's on YouTube because people are like way more constructive. And I think that's partly just to do with the platform. People on YouTube are expecting to see that kind of content, and so they're not. Yeah, on Reddit,
that might
people are
be
like
it more
people are expecting to just like scroll through. They're not
for
expecting to watch
sure.
10-minute video.
Yeah,
I think
But
I think the other thing is
yeah,
the type of video surely as well, because if because I mean, looking at your gallery of videos on YouTube, Gigabeef, you have, and we were talking about this the other day, some of your earlier videos, that your how-to videos and stuff, you probably spent a lot of time on them and they've got the least amount of views, but some of your more recent ones have got far more. And it's the clickbait scenario, isn't it? I mean, if someone's going on YouTube to look for something in particular, a gun build, like how to do this quest, like where to go on this map, or how to play this map, or something along those lines, then they're far more likely to leave an or a question. But if you show them a montage of gameplay, then they're either going to start commenting on your gameplay and say you could have done this better or something like that. They're going to have more of an opinion. If you're telling them a fact, they're going to have less of an opinion on the fact in theory because it's a fact. That makes sense.
yeah, I mean that's that. Yeah, there is that. But then there's like people find a way. Honestly, you'd be surprised. People are very creative in being able to find ways of doing this. Just like things like you've gone to all this trouble doing this build, but this gun is useless compared to this other gun. Like, why haven't you just gone with this? Everyone's using this other gun.
yeah,
Like even just simple stuff
Yeah.
like that, and you're like,
Yeah, I suppose.
okay, or like, God, I don't
It's
even
kind
know.
of
Just
like,
like
why modern ADAR when you could just use an M4? That kind of
yeah,
comment.
exactly. And like, look, there's videos that I've looked back on and gone, yeah, I get it, and I've changed stuff and I've learned from them. Like one of the first ones I did that kind of went like semi well was this kind of like ADAR modding guide, and I was like, oh, I'm going to do an ADAR one because it's like I can do the very basics of like AR-15 modding from scratch. And people who are going to be looking for that are going to be looking for ADAR guides, right? Because they're not going to be looking for M4 guides. Like I know I wouldn't have been looking for an M4 guide if I didn't even know how to mod an ADAR. And so I'll make an ADAR guide,
You'd
and
be
then
scared to take out an M4.
yeah,
That's the
exactly.
point,
So I
isn't
was like,
it?
fine. So
ADAR to
I'll
go
make an ADAR guide. And then I was like, well, I want to combine this with a build as well. And so I was like, fine, I'll just put like a budget recoil build with it. Thing that I had forgotten is that probably the people who are trying to look for the guide in the first place don't have level 4 traders. And so the build didn't really make sense. And I've had lots of people say that on the YouTube comments, and I've gone, yeah, I've learned from this. Yep. The other ones I've taken this into account, but you still get it again and again and again. People being like, well, the problem with this build is that the handguard you have to buy from level 3 mechanic, and the rails from level 4 mechanic. And do you think the beginners are really? I'm just like, no, I know, I get it. It's out there now. Like it's 2 months old. I've learned.
I see
understand.
exactly what you're talking about. My chat are going crazy saying, tell him there's no such thing as an M4 DAR, and tell him that you can't convert an ADAR to an M4. My chat's going crazy for it. I mean,
That's
this
not your
isn't even
chat.
YouTube
That's
or Reddit.
blowing. That's 100% blowing. That's 100% blowing. He loves
Quite possibly, but
he loves it.
he does.
He loves converting ADARs to M4s. It's his favorite of all my content.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean,
go ahead.
I think that it's I was just going to say, I think that it's admirable that you've gone the harder route. I mean, obviously you're using Twitch to bolster YouTube, and you're using YouTube to bolster Twitch. But I mean, from a content creation point of view, I mean, you've effectively put your heart and soul into creating videos and put them out there. I mean, from my perspective, I'm literally sitting in front of my computer playing games as I normally would be, even if I wasn't streaming. It's just that I've added the caveat that I now have to watch, chat, and comment so that my wife lets me carry on playing.
Yeah,
Effectively.
yeah. I mean, there is that. I think for me it was like just around timing and stuff. Like YouTube, you can kind of like edit the videos whenever. Whereas Twitch, you're kind of like dedicating that block of time. That was kind of originally why I wanted to do it, because to give myself a bit more flexibility. And I think it just kind of like fits the way that I play the game and stuff. I always wanted to. I like teaching. I actually really like teaching people, and so I always want to tell people about the game and teach them how to build stuff. And I've taught a few friends who unfortunately don't play anymore, but I always like playing, teaching people who are new and showing them like funny little tricks. I love funny little tricks, like one of my favorite videos is one of like the lowest view videos I have, like from really early on. And it was actually, it's not even very useful anymore, but it was one where like you can go on the flea market, find an AK that's got a loaded mag in it, double click on it and open it up, and if there's no round in the chamber, you can actually double click on the mag, turn the mag in the viewer, and actually see if there's 762 BP in there because of the black tip on the end. And it's like little things like that. That is my jam. I love that stuff so much. And like 100 people watched that video, and I still love it. Like it's one of my favorite little tricks. And things like that just make me so happy. And that's what I wanted to share with people, which is why I wanted to do it this way.
Because it's something that you enjoy. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. But I mean, I find that one of the hardest things to do. So from a YouTube perspective, I mean, making a video and teaching, etc., is probably a lot easier than. I mean, I like playing with new people, but I find that as a Twitch streamer, trying to stream to entertain my regular viewers, etc., taking someone that's never played the game before and taking them into the raid, I find that really, really difficult, because you almost have to split your attention 2 ways, and you really can't.
Yeah.
If you're trying to help someone. I mean, it was proved yesterday when I was playing with viewers. One of the first raids I went into a raid with one of my viewers that I've actually gifted the game to, because he won a competition. And he's been playing for a few weeks. And we went into a customs raid, but he didn't have a particularly good load time for whatever reason. He was syncing with players, and we got into a fight. And he loaded in, and he didn't know where he was. And I was like, well, just lay down and stay where you are, and I'll come and find you as soon as you kill these people. And I'm walking through on customs looking for this person, and literally 2 seconds later, I see someone laid next to a wall. Shoot him in the head, and it was him. And I hadn't realized that he'd spawned right in next to me. But he had done exactly what I'd said, and I just literally just one-tapped him in the head. And that was the first viewer raid that I did, and I was like, well, crap. And he just quietly in chat went, that was me. I was like, what do you mean it was you? He's like, I'm dead. You shot me. I was like, I didn't shoot you. I shot the guy I was looking for. He goes, no, I was laid by the wall like I said I was, and you just shot me. I was like, oh, for God's sake. And so it's really, really difficult to actually, because I was so focused on trying to kill this 2-man, and the other person I would just died, and they were really geared, and it was really difficult to actually realize that I needed to be able to make sure he was somewhere, and so it's really difficult to play the game, stream, and teach somebody new. So
I
I'm
agree.
kind of
I agree.
in
I
awe.
think even like I kind of decided really early on that I was pretty much going to only stream solo, because if you're streaming on Twitch, right, the important thing is the community and chat, and I don't feel like I can dedicate enough time to chat otherwise. Like I'm notorious for like carrying on chatting to chat whilst in combat, which people are like, you're an absolute nutcase. Can you just focus on the fight? And I'm just like, what are you guys saying? Like even during the guide, and people are like, look at the damn screen, stop looking at chat. I was like, final like mission on the guide, like trying to do shoreline, and everyone's like, please stop looking at chat. Like you make sweat so bad. I'm just like, oh god. But that's the thing. It's like I think if you're playing with other streamers who've got their own chats and stuff, it's kind of like a bit, they kind of get it a bit more. But yeah, if you're playing with completely new people and stuff, it's very hard. You got to dedicate a lot of time because you need to facilitate your chat, right? It's kind of what you're there for. So
it's almost like
I
chat is your duo buddy.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. And I actually like some people are like, oh, sorry for backseating or whatever, and I actually don't mind. I take a lot of advice from chat and do things chat tell me. I should probably add that to my stream, just like get people. I play Tarkov, but really chat tells me where to go because that's kind of half what happens anyway.
Yeah. Backseating is awesome. But Bloweney always tells me that I'm always too slow to read his backseat instructions. So you'll say something, and I'm concentrating, and I look over, and about 30 seconds later, that piece of information would have been really useful, but I'm now dead. So sometimes it's not great, but I find I've fallen into the trap that I play with people too much on stream. And I love playing with other people, and I do play with mostly other streamers. So you can do a squad stream and watch both of us, if that makes sense. But I find that when I am streaming with other people, I just talk anyway. Like I don't mute myself on stream. I talk to both chats, and quite a few times, depending on who I'm with, I normally get their chat up as well and talk to their chat at the same time to help them. Because
that's cool.
For instance, Jake that I streamed with and have known for years, he's terrible at talking to chat because he hates reading. He's not very good at reading on the fly. And so I talk to chat and he provides the good gameplay. So he gets the kills and I'm just like a cameraman running around after him half the time because he's just sprinting off and killing people. I definitely want to start doing more solo streams. But I think that when I'm playing solo, I just find it really difficult to play the game. It's like a completely different way of playing Tarkov.
It is. It really is. Yeah, it really is. But I kind of like it. I don't know. Maybe it comes back to the way that I always used to play competitive games as well. Because like the strategy games I used to play like properly and like playing hard, it was always 1v1. And so I've always like competitively played on my own, really. And so I think maybe I'm kind of used to that already in some ways. And I think compared to some of those games as well, and especially, I was actually never that good at Dota. I played Dota 2 for a long time, and I was never actually that good. I was okay. I was kind of like middle of the road, but that game is like intense the whole time. Like you're busy doing stuff continuously, whereas something like EFT is, it gets really intense at times, and it's quite like paranoid making and stress. Yeah, but there's a lot of downtime. There's time in stash, time loading in, wandering around when you're just kind of like scanning for stuff. And I think after a while you just kind of get used to it. Yeah, and hiding in the bush. There's plenty of that. There's plenty of that.
Yeah,
I think chat managed to watch me looking at the back of it was the labs. I was actually the one after the guide. I was doing Kappa. I needed the fire steel. That was the only item I needed left. And chat watched me for 20 minutes, sat the back of a forklift, and it was the most stressful 20 minutes anyone had ever had, including me. And we literally didn't move, and there were raiders everywhere and fights going on, and it was crazy. But yeah, that was even worse than like sitting in a bush.
Because you had the item.
I had the item, and I was stuck in the little dome thing, with the barrels that are fallen over, and it's kind of like the machinery room area. I was like on the ground floor there in that dome, and I was behind the forklift in that dome, and there was fights and raiders everywhere, and I could just hear them, and they were like walking around like in packs of 4, and I was just like pinned there, and every now and then a player would come and kill them and stuff. But it's one of those things. It's like, only in EFT could people just watch you basically stare at a static screen hidden behind cover for 20 minutes and it still be entertaining and stressful, because it's just like 15 minutes of me like speaking to chat, being like, where are we going to go? Like, guys, you tell me. I don't know labs that well. Like, where's the downstairs section? Like, where's the cover? Like, you tell me what let's discuss. What do you think the best way to get out of this situation is? Like, I'm stuck.
And with every gunshot and every explosion, it gets more and more intense.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Definitely.
Exactly.
But then I also think that some of the best content I've had on my channel is, so for some of the guys that I play with, not necessarily streamers, but there's people that I've played with in this Discord community that I was a part of for years, like Jake and a couple of the other members of the community. I've played with for years, and so we know how each other plays, if that makes sense. We got to the point where we can kind of predict where we're going to be, and flanking is really easy for us, and we can kind of move around and actually kill people in quite tactical ways, which I think is quite good content. I think people enjoy seeing that
Hmm.
kind of gameplay.
Yeah,
But I definitely feel like I need to do more solo stuff.
yeah. I was gonna say I hang out in Dan Exert's chat a lot, and every other day he'll do like duo raids of chat, and then the next day he'll do like solo raids. And I noticed that the solo raids, it's when it's not super intense, it's a lot more interactive with chat. He'll be like, hold on guys, let me catch up with chat," and he'll just pack mags in the corner. Whereas like a duo raid, sometimes the content just kind of like, I don't know, oversees the chat interaction, because you can really get
Yeah.
into like the comms and like the teamwork as like a viewer. So I guess they both kind of have like the
And
pros
so
and
people
cons.
start communicating with you less, and you get less messages in chat because they were enjoying watching it. It's more of a show than a interactive conversation as
Yeah.
such.
But the content can still be
Makes it
very
difficult.
good. It's just that maybe a little
Yeah,
bit less on the chat interaction scale for sure.
I think that also helps in larger. Maybe this is one of the reason why Twitch actually stopped people from squad streaming, unless you're a partner, because I suppose from a content creation point of view, they're trying to do people a favor.
Uh-huh.
Because if you're always doing squad streams,
Yeah,
always ignoring your chat,
right.
or at least not giving it as much attention as you probably would do. So
Yeah.
Gigabeef's kind of way of streaming solo and doing the occasional special, etc. Slash, playing with his sister and doing all sorts of YouTube videos and advertising that kind of thing. It's probably better from a growth point of view because you're actually always concentrating on your community. And although
Hmm.
I talk to my community all the time and I do play with other people and I play with them, I noticed yesterday when I was doing raids with community, when I stopped. So when I started doing that, I had everyone wanting to play, and I didn't want to fall into the trap of doing a 5-man. And I had some really good fun raids, and had lots of people in chat, and we were enjoying ourselves. But then, kind of halfway through, when I was getting more into the gameplay, and a couple of other people joined me, and we started doing helping Blowenny get the guide done. My viewership actually went from mid-20s down to 6 people, and it's because we were going to labs. So they were all suddenly like, "Oh, actually, I don't want to play labs, so I'm not going to keep watching," because they didn't want to join in with that part of the
Hmm.
stream, if that makes sense. So I
Interesting.
kind of feel like, for instance, you can go to some Twitch channels and they're always streaming labs. I think people will go there to watch that content and to watch the
Right.
gameplay more than they'll go to watch and talk to the streamer. They go to physically watch the PvP.
Mhm.
My audience, I think, my audience kind of come to communicate and talk to me and enjoy talking, enjoy asking questions, enjoy communicating, and just watching me fail quite a lot. That's kind
I,
of, it's just more honest gameplay. If that
yeah,
makes
I think
sense.
like you kind of like you build your community around what you like to do because there's people who there are a lot of people who come into my stream obviously come from my YouTube, and so
Right.
there's a real mix of different people with different skills and stuff. But like a lot of the people who come in who are like brand new to the channel and they often end up sticking around and coming back are like there's quite a few people who are like brand completely new or they've only been playing for a month or a couple of weeks or something, and then they ask questions and they say, well, what do you think about this, or how do you think I should do XYZ, or I'm trying to complete this task, how do you think I should do it? And it some people come for that kind of stuff, and I think that's, again, it's like a reflection, like whatever you do, like whatever content you create, that then mirrors onto your community, right? So if you have like a wholesome community full of people who are helping each other, then that's kind of like mirrors then all the new users who are coming in
Yeah.
who are also going to be like that, right? And if you've got a channel that's based around like guides and whatnot, you're going to have like more sort of beginner people asking questions. And if you've got something based around entertainment and streams, you're going to have more people wanting to come and play. And then alternative as well, if you've got like a very, very PvP heavy sort of labs centric sort of, I don't know, potentially slightly more toxic culture, then you can have a more toxic chat with people who come to watch only PvP, and then you're going to heckle you when you die. And it's kind of it's sort of it's of your own making, I think, in a lot of ways. You kind of
Yeah.
you have to make your community the way that you want it. and that reflects you well.
I think I missed my point before as well. I was saying that Twitch stopped you from doing squad streams to your partner. I think that's more because when you've got less people in the chat, you should interact with them more. And then when you get to the pact where you've got hundreds of people watching, it doesn't matter as much because, I mean, has anyone actually tried to read every single message in someone with 1,000 people in their Twitch channel's chat? And on subscriber only mode, it goes so quickly that you can't even read anything. So I think it's more of a point of, at that point, you are trying to entertain people and do more impressive things than you are to actually communicate with people in a way.
Yeah. I think you're right. I mean,
Definitely.
I actually don't know where that threshold lies, from where you go from like people being able to communicate with you and chat with you properly to like you can't keep up with chat properly anymore. I'm not sure where that number is. It's
I
probably
genuinely think it's quite low. I think it's between, if you have
100.
15 to 20 really active chatters, like I'm not talking about how many people watching, but if you have 15 to 20 really active people talking in your Discord, not in your Discord, sorry, in your channel, in your text chat, it goes so quickly. And when you're trying to play a game like Tarkov, if you literally look away for 10 seconds and you look back, the chat has dropped down and you suddenly can't see the messages that you've missed
Yeah.
because it's carried on going. So this is why I think a lot of streamers have portrait screens. Like, they get ultra wide monitors and stick them in a portrait way so that they can see just a long list of text going all the way down from the roof, just so that they're able to actually try and keep up with some of the messages.
Yeah, it makes
I,
sense.
I think it's actually quite a low number of really active chatters, and we could probably test it at some point. And if everyone in the chat started talking right now and saying stuff to someone, if they have like 15 or 20 people watching, I'm sure it would just literally just go down and down and down. So I think it's on number of active chatters rather than viewers.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. And then I guess as you say, you move over from being kind of like a small community creator to kind of a broader entertainer, where your channel is more like a broadcast
Yeah.
than an interactive stream, so to
exactly.
speak. Which is almost a bit sad because that's kind of
You
not.
then would lose quite a few of your original audience, in my opinion, because I mean, the amount of people that come into my channel and say they like coming in because they can interact with streamers and they like watching
Yeah.
because of the small community. I kind of wonder if you then start to migrate over to the other side, if that makes sense,
Yeah,
to the next set of
exactly.
people that just like spamming emotes in chat and doing all sorts
Yeah,
of weird things.
there definitely is like a threshold because I notice when I watch bigger streamers, oftentimes some of the content comes from chat's reaction to what the streamer's doing. So like something will happen or there'll be like some random copy pasta that just catches on and it's just like some garbage low tier BTTV emotes, just like copy pasta or whatever. Or someone will say something and the streamer will call them out and they'll get banned and then like it'll just be like banned emojis going down through like chat and like in a way I find chat entertaining, their reaction to what the streamer's doing, because it's just like a cesspool of memes and stuff. So there's definitely some threshold once you get X amount of viewers that you just can't possibly read
Has to
every
be,
single
yeah,
message,
completely.
and chat's a beast of its own.
Chat is
I mean, genuinely, that's when I
funny,
turn it
right?
off.
Yeah.
That's when I turn chat off. I just go full screen and watch the streamer. When I can't see what an individual message in chat, I just ignore the chat completely and watch while cooking dinner or something, just the streamer themselves.
The big streams chat is quite interesting because it's like, you don't read any individual thing, but it's almost like a
Yeah.
mind of its own when something
Yeah.
happens and then like 200 emotes appear and they just all scroll past. It kind of like, it's almost like chat's almost like an emotion rather than any particular kind of communication. You get the feel of the crowd from like just the stream of stuff coming past, because you get an idea of what it is, right? Because you can see the different things, people with all the different emotes, whatever, depending on what's happened. It's kind of its own special thing in some ways. So I can see why it's entertaining. It's good.
I guess they just roll with the punches. They just watch what's going past on screen and just roll with it. So.
Yeah. Interesting. I wanted to touch on some of the points we were talking about earlier.
Yes.
I thought it was interesting. I noticed, because Shifty's more on the Twitch platform, focused there, and Gigabeef, you're
solely on Twitch.
You're right, and Gigabeef, you're sort of split in between the two. And we were kind of like talking about comments and this and that, and it's like Twitch in some ways is when you have like this interaction and it's like a social interaction, whereas YouTube, you like create content or like a product and you put out and people sort of react to it, right? And whereas like Twitch, you may get like a let's say you're just starting out and you don't have any viewers, and something really cool or funny happened, but no one was there to see it. Whereas like you could upload a video on YouTube of like the same thing, and you might have like a wider chance for someone to see that. You know what I'm getting at in a way?
Yeah, I mean, look, the two platforms are completely different. It's
Mhm.
in terms of the content as well, in terms of what people actually want to consume, because few people will go. I mean, if somebody is very, very big, then they can upload. Like if you're Shroud, right, you can upload full raids and people will watch you just for your skill. But if you're a smaller creator, I mean, it's people typically won't watch full raids because that's what they go to Twitch for that
Sure.
kind of thing. And so, and it's funny because I had this conversation the other day, and it was, we were talking about how people go to YouTube for various guides and things. And I mean, yeah, Shifty mentioned it to me. And it's like, if you put out a weapons build guide, people love that stuff because that's what they go to YouTube for, to look up stuff. How do I build XYZ? How do I put
Yeah,
a
that's
scope on the
true.
SKS? How do I do this, that, and the other? Why doesn't the brand SKS take a scope? What am I doing wrong? And I, I sort of made the point that like, if you're big like Pestilli, then you can put out, full raids and people will still watch them anyway because of kind of the provenance of the brand. But it's interesting if you go on the big creators channels, even their videos that are full raids get less views than the others,
Yeah.
right? And so they still get lots of
You
views
have to
because
be
they're big.
landmark to get. Yeah, you have to have the clickbait of killing 10 people in Laos in one
Yeah,
raid or something like that to
because
actually
that's
make someone
like
sit there for half an hour and watch
exactly
it.
because like you need to be bringing value of some kind, right? Otherwise people won't watch the video in the first place. So it either needs to be like educational, it needs to be entertaining, or it needs to be
Sure.
you showcasing a unique skill, right? So somebody like Landmark has a unique skill. He's absolutely insane at the game, right? It's the same with like Shroud, and the people who are super super good will always get views because they're amazing at the game, and that's its own special thing. Someone
Mhm.
like Pestilli gets a lot of views because he's very decent at the game, obviously, but he's not a professional CS:GO style player. He knows the game inside out, and so it's his knowledge that people come for, really, right? Like, and also he's very good, but it's mainly his knowledge. And then and outside of that, it's like there are other people who focus more on guide type material who like to teach, and that's kind of what the angle I've gone from. But it's interesting, just how different the two are. But I think the main point and the reason why, because it was interesting how Shifty earlier said like, oh, I've gone down the more difficult route. Well, for me, I was sat at like 0 viewers / 1 viewer, and I was like, I don't know how I'm ever going to get out of this because I wasn't part of it. Like, I wasn't part of any Discord communities or anything like that. I've not traditionally done any particular kind of like esports or gaming networking. I just like played with my friends. And so it's not something that I've always really done. And so I was like, how do I get out of this hole of just being at 0?
Because you're
And
literally in a rut of being
yeah,
stuck at
exactly.
0.
And YouTube was kind of like the route for that for me. Yeah, that was the way through, because on Twitch there is no, and look, a ton of people said this, right? There's no searchability on Twitch. It's just a list of people. So
Yeah.
unless you've come from somewhere else, like a Discord channel or something, you have to bring people to Twitch. Twitch as a platform will not help you get your channel marketed. Whereas on YouTube, you can write something and say, how do I, mod an AKM specifically for Punisher Part 2, right? And some people will find that video simply because of the way it's tagged. They're scrolling through and they look through a couple of them and they go, oh, this one's short enough, and blah, blah. People will just find these videos, right? And so as a creator with a non-existent following, YouTube is a good place to start, because people will find your stuff if it's good. And if it's okay and people do watch it, YouTube will push it to other people who are looking for the same thing. And YouTube has search.
That's definitely true.
YouTube has search, and that's the big differentiator between the two. But I mean, there was something I wanted to say before about comments, because you were talking about not taking comments to heart and that kind of thing, and about the threshold. And I always wonder about the tipping threshold. Like YouTube's equivalent of the tipping threshold on chat is
Yeah.
is about comments. Now I read every single comment that gets written on my channel, and I say I probably respond to 75% of them. If I at least thumbs up and like the ones that I agree with, but I read every single one and respond to most of them. And I wonder at what point I'd hope that I would still be able to do that as we go through. But I can see like some people who just don't respond at all to any comments or anything, and maybe that's their style. But it's an interesting one, because I always want to. It's the same thing of like building your community, right? Like
Yeah,
I want
you
to be
want
interacting with people. People ask questions, and
right.
you want to be responding to people. That's
Yeah.
what we're there for. That's why we're making content. Is I don't it's not just like putting content out there for people to view it and then I count my number of views or whatever. It's like people ask questions and to help people. That's the value that I'm trying to provide to everybody, and it's nice to hear people's feedback. It's great, right? And then they're more likely to come over to Twitch too, and then have a nice chat with me. and build a community of wholesome people. That's kind of the angle. It's cool.
So from the opposite side, though, the way that I managed to cheat my affiliate as such, and it wasn't a cheat, but it's a legitimate way of doing it. But effectively, I have. Oh, sorry, 2 seconds.
Bless you.
I have my wife. Thank you. I have my wife to kind of thank for this, and it's because if you look at the first 100 pages of Tarkov streamers, imagining there is 100 pages, I don't know how many there is at the moment. But if you look at the first 100 pages, everyone has got between 0 and 2 viewers. Then the top 10 pages have people with over that. So if you are actually... Oh, yeah, sorry, my son wants his iPad. You come and say hello, Minnie.
He's in the green screen.
There we go. He's gone. Sorry about that.
That's fine.
So if you get past the first 100 pages of 0 to 2 people, then if you're able to get just 3 people watching you, you suddenly jump above thousands of Tarkov streamers. And if you're in the top kind of 5-10 pages, you're more likely to be found.
Yeah.
And it kind of sucks to be in the middle, but instantly your average views, etc. If you just literally put on your stream on your phone and on your iPad or something along those lines, or you get your brother or your sister or your parents, or you get someone that you know just to watch your channel, even if it's while you're just starting, you will that more people will come into your stream than you would ever have imagined, because you've suddenly got more people than the bunch, the horde,
Yeah.
as I probably will call them. And actually, for me, when I started off, I had my phone on my alternative account, because I have a private lurking account that I use. I had Amy watching on an iPad. I had Amy's sister watching from up in North Wales. I had Amy's other sister watching from Stockton. And I literally just had family and friends watching me. And I even, a couple of the people that I work with who are into gaming, they just chucked me a lurk and stuck it on. So instantly on my first stream, I had, 6 or 7 people watching me from the beginning. And although they weren't interacting with me too much because they didn't give a damn about what I was playing and they thought it was quite a stupid game, it meant that I got above the horde and the rabble, and I was able to actually start generating community members, because they would come in and see that I had, X amount of people. They come in and say hello, and then once I get someone to say hello, I would say that I'm particularly attentive. I'm an attentive streamer. I'm quite good at saying hello back, remembering who people are. And at the beginning, I even had a spreadsheet. So if someone came and gave me a piece of information, like I'm just going to use Blowenny. I'm Blowenny. So I learned that Blowenny was Welsh and he lives in Ireland, and he's moved to Ireland to be with his Irish wife. I wrote that down on a spreadsheet so I could remember that piece of information. So it helps me retain it, but also I can go back, and if he comes into the channel again and I need to get that snippet back, I can actually turn around and say to him, "Oh, how is it in Ireland at the moment? And how's the weather going in Ireland?" Or something like that. Something that just gives him a bit of a unique feeling that I've remembered who he is, and actually I've taken the time to learn who he is and a bit about him, and I've remembered it the next time he comes into stream. So I've got a new guy on my channel called Pivot. He came in a couple of days ago. So he's from Greece. So I've written down a bit of information that I got from him, and it's that kind of it's nothing that anyone would probably take as personal, but it's just that nice little gesture that I've done something to actually take notice of someone that's coming to my channel and show them a bit of appreciation and learn who they are. I couldn't do that when someone is. I see my chat are talking about it now, because Oddbod's from Wales as well. So now that I said Blowenny's Welsh, they're now talking about where they're from. But it's that kind of thing that I find makes a community. It's that kind of gesture, and I won't be able to do that when, hopefully, fingers crossed, I have 100 people watching. But I mean, for now, to try and build up a nice group of people, it's definitely gone a long way in helping people come back and retain people and retain viewers, for sure. So that's just my little tip of something that I've done that I don't think a lot of people will put the time and effort into doing, but I think it's helped me a lot in learning kind of who people are and who's watching me as such.
Yeah. I also have a tab in a Google Sheet as well.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yes, I'm not the only one.
I also do the same thing, because I'm quite bad at remembering that kind of information specifically. Like my brain works in a very specific way for weapons mods and attachments and certain pieces of mathematics and that kind of thing, and it doesn't really click mostly with when things happened on what days, or necessarily like people. One thing actually I do find that I use as my defense on this point is that, especially given that I'm across 2 platforms, people have a different username on YouTube that they do on Discord, that they do on Twitter,
It's so
that they
difficult,
do
isn't it?
on Twitch, and that does make it really hard. And it's not something
The
that I'm
aliases
great
are
at
so
anyway.
difficult.
It's not something I'm great at anyway, and that makes it like 20 times more difficult, because people don't immediately, the people just sort of kind of like, they forget that you don't know, and then they're like, oh hey, you know, I was watching a stream the other
Be
night. I'm
hurt
just
when you
like,
don't know
you've
them.
got a completely different name.
Yeah.
Genuinely, I
know
have
you
it in
by
Discord
your-
all the time.
yeah.
I'm like, hang on, who am I meant to be dragging in? What's your Discord name? And it's something like completely different. And you're like, well, I'm really sorry, but how am I meant to know when it's completely something different? I mean, if you had, you know, someone that had the word Shifty in their name, and the name on Twitch is Shifty, and their name on Discord is Shifty Sucks, you can kind of take the leap and say, well, that's going to
Right,
be
yeah.
Shifty, isn't
Yeah.
it? But when someone's got the name Shifty on Twitch, and then they got the name Alfredo on Discord, you're just kind of like, pasta, really? Who's that? I have no idea whatsoever.
Yeah,
But,
I mean, it
I
makes
completely
sense
agree. It's so difficult.
because you're just trying to string together text, bits of
Yeah.
information like, oh, this set of characters said this, so this relates to them. But
Yeah.
you don't have like a face or anything to
Exactly
attach it
right.
to. There's nothing
And it's
visually.
even worse. And it's even worse on stream, right? Because like you're trying to play the game as well and interact with chat and trying to
Yeah.
remember everything that everybody said. It's not easy. It's not easy.
Yeah.
Mm.
Before we move
Um,
on,
We should probably talk about Tarkov at some point.
Yeah, I was thinking.
what's that game? Tarkov. I've never heard of that. No, I did want to touch on one thing before we move on to a different topic.
Sure.
From my experience, when I did a few streams a long time ago, and friends that I played with would come in and we would chat. And I was like, it was a great experience, but it kind of just felt like I could be doing the same thing, but just in like a Discord call, And like the 1 or 2 rare times that some random viewer would come into my chat and say something, I would end up missing their message, And it was like I lost out on that chance to engage with them, Whereas like YouTube, on the flip side, like streaming is, I guess, a lot simpler, maybe easier, you could think about it. But if you make like especially an informative YouTube video, I feel like you put in so much more work and effort. And then the first comment on there is like, oh, this is crap, blah, blah, blah. You should have done this, blah, blah, blah. Or even you yourself are looking at your own mistakes you did in your video, like, God, why did I say it like that? Or why did I mess this up? It's so much, you put so much more work into it. But it's just interesting to me, like they're both like the same. They're different platforms and they're consumed like through the same medium, I guess you could say. But like the experiences are just like totally different, especially when you're starting out, And I agree with you.
It's like Reddit.
Yeah,
There's just such a small marginal representation of people that ruin it for everyone else by being toxic and giving bad comments, etc.
Yeah.
And then, as you were saying earlier, YouTube, there's probably less people now, and people coming to find you are actually trying to get there to look for the information itself, and so they're less likely to be hostile. And then on Twitch, people are just going to leave your channel if they don't like you. They might say one word and leave, but I suppose Twitch is the most forgiving platform because it's a live conversation. So you can always give as good as you get if you're that kind of streamer.
That's true.
Or you've just got awesome mods like Blowinny who could just say, yeah, you're blocked. Bye-bye. See you later. Not that I've ever actually had to block anyone that wasn't trying to sell me followers, but yeah, I think there is such a difference between the the 2 platforms completely.
Yeah, I mean,
it is a huge leap.
It's just like
It's a huge.
it's the only thing. Yeah, the only thing I have to say about it is that, like, yes, it's a lot of work. You're not just playing the game on your own, and people are coming in. Yes, you have to do a lot more stuff, and making content for YouTube is a lot more like work than streaming is. That's the truth. But that's why, if you have 0 on every platform, that is why it is easier to begin there, because it's harder and because less people will do it and there is less competition. And that's the reason why. And it is easier to go from 0. And I've done it. I've gone from literally nothing. I had nothing on any platform, and it is easier if you put the time and effort in. And it is hard. But I think, and in terms of just like trying to sort of defend yourself against like salty people, especially after the first bit, especially after the beginning where you're just trying to like push your stuff, if someone comes in with an annoying comment, like the way that I always just try to view it after a while, because it did actually really bother me at one point, and you know what, it still does bother me. I'd be lying if I was going to say that it doesn't bother me, right? Because when you spend like 10 hours making something, like you've got all the clips, you have to cut all the clips together, you have to decide on the content, you put it all together, and then you actually put it out, and even writing the descriptions, the titles, making thumbnails, all that stuff, right? Like it takes time.
Yeah.
When you spend all that time on it, and then somebody says something that's like really annoying or really nitpicky on something, it is hurtful, right? But I think like
there's always that hobgoblin that comes in and starts slagging off something that you've done.
Yeah,
and,
and that's just going to happen,
a lot
right?
of effort into this.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, it's just like, you know, they don't see it that way. They don't know how much work goes into it. But ultimately, the way that I managed to turn my mentality around on it was just like the algorithm likes comments and social interaction. YouTube doesn't really know what's written, right? And actually, even down likes are positive on YouTube. So the more comments you get on your YouTube video, the people who are hating, they're actually just fueling the
Actually
fire.
helping you.
They're
That's
actually
crazy.
helping you.
That is so interesting.
And
That's
once you
really
realize
cool.
this, it changes your mentality completely. And then after that, even more so, like the way that I normally like to do it, some people are like, they've gone to the brink and they've gone past it, and there's no saving them, right? But there's some people who say things, and my favorite game is to bring them back. And there's a couple of people who I've had conversations with, and they say something, they write something in there, maybe they're having a crappy day or whatever, and they just go like, oh, this sucks, right? Blah, 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 this sucks. And then I come back to them and just like, you know, I'm sorry you didn't like it. What didn't you like about it? I tried to do this, that, and the other, and this is why I decided to do it this way. And they come back and they go, oh, you know, I didn't really mean it like that.
Mediation.
Sorry, like blah, 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 blah.
It's mediation, isn't it? You're
and
having the
so many
conversation.
times.
You're trying to bring them back. You understand. You're talking to them on their level and saying, right, well, what could I have done differently?
Yeah.
And you get their opinion and you start that open dialogue. And
And
suddenly
sometimes
you've got a
people just-
subscriber and someone that will watch your videos.
Exactly right. Sometimes people just make like snap judgments. Like my favorite one of all time, my absolute favorite one, was a guy who picked up on, I think it might even have been my MP5 video that was like one of the ones that did really well on my channel. And I had some clips of the stream that I did with my sister. And this guy just like came in and was just like, he was like, if you want to be a big YouTuber, then you know you don't want to be one of those douches playing with e-girls. What are you doing, basically? And I just replied back to him, was just like, hey man, like, yeah, I play with my sister sometimes on stream. You know, we have a good time. It's all about having fun, right? And then he was just like, oh my god, that's actually really cool. I'm now subbed. I actually watch your videos all the time. And I was just like, boom, got him. And I love it. I love bringing people back from the brink like that, right? Because it's just like you just have to just like try and desalt the waters. You know, every little bit that we can do to just make people a bit more human is like, you know, is one step further to, I don't know, just making things nicer and better.
It's so interesting you said about the negative comments because
I love it. I love it. It helps your channel when people type
It helps your channel
to you in a
well, I
promise, Giga, I will go through every single one of your videos and write shit on all of them just to help you out, okay?
Well, here's the thing. Once a week, I'll go on EFT Reddit, and I don't really do the hot front page because I just feel like I know what I'm gonna get. Like I'm gonna get some type of like, hey, artwork, blah blah blah. Did you guys know? You know, I go to controversial, and I sort by the past week. So I get to find these like really interesting discussions, but they're usually filled with some type of like negative hate like mindset, like, oh, you're stupid, you just want to change the game, blah blah blah, you know. But that's where I found some of the most interesting ideas and theories or topics and controversial. So it's super interesting to me that you mentioned that, because I can say I found it true for when I'm browsing content on Reddit anyways.
Yeah. Reddit's the worst for it by far. Reddit's the worst for it by far, by percentage anyway. In my experience, it's way worse. But
cool. Well, should we talk about the patch 12.8? I mean, I don't want to go through all
I mean,
the
it's
details.
so good, isn't it?
It's
amazing.
It's so amazing.
It looks so similar to the old patch. It's amazing how much they said they were going to do, but it just feels the same.
Just so everyone at home watching understands, we had quite a large section of this podcast dedicated to the brand new patch that should have dropped on Wednesday, and we're now sat here before this going, well, patch didn't drop. What are we going to talk about?
Pretty bummed out myself. What's something you guys are excited or at least anticipating for?
Well, I always called it was going to be Woods. I always said that Woods was going to be the next map they updated, but they didn't do my idea. My idea was that they were going to expand all the way around the lake, so you could run all the way around the lake, so you go either side of it, if that makes sense. and you can actually shoot people across the lake. And I thought that was going to be epic because it would double the size of the map. But they've gone the other way. We're like, nah, we're not going to do that. That doesn't make any sense. The lake's the lake. You don't want to go that way. Instead, they've obviously expanded over by the car extract, which I'm very interested to see how it works with the dynamics. If you can go all the way around that mountain, I think it's going to definitely open it up like it did for customs. But I have to say I'm skeptical as to whether I'm going to enjoy it or not, because woods has always been a pet hate of mine.
See, I actually quite like woods. It's weird. Like
Get
a lot
outta
of people
here.
don't like woods. A lot of people don't like woods, and I've actually had quite decent times on woods throughout my Tarkov life, I think, and I feel like that's possibly learning quite early that going around the wall edge is just like instant death. And so after
Yeah,
realizing
100%.
that,
Run
after
through the
realizing
middle.
that, because people think that woods is a huge map, right? And woods is really not very
It's
big at
not.
all, because the actual active area of woods is very small, and
Yeah.
it's actually
Sawmill,
it's
isn't it?
way more choke pointy than people think, because you
Yeah.
can't really go through Sawmill unless, like, I've actually done my fair share of it trying to kill Sturman and just running around with like a AKMS, and it was actually really fun. But if you're playing like properly, you don't go into the Sawmill whatsoever. You've got the beach area side, which is like much safer, and then you have that
Or Dickhead
crazy pinch point area. Yeah, exactly. All of that
Yeah,
section.
that's why it's called
which is
Dickhead
just
Rock,
like,
is because it's just
you know?
such a pinch point.
Yeah.
And genuinely, woods is one of the maps where if you spawn on one side, you know full well that you're going to have a much better raid than if you spawned on the other side. I mean, with customs now, with the expansion, it doesn't matter which side you spawn. I mean, obviously, Big Red has got some of its spawns messed up at the moment, but actually, the expansion on customs, it's made it far better. Just wherever you spawn, you're going to be in with a good chance of having a good raid. Whereas on woods, if you spawn over by house, etc., on that side, the chances are you're going to be dead before you get to see Sawmill, unless you run straight there.
Yeah.
It's because the spawns are so close together that it's so difficult to get out of that corner if you spawn in that corner.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
that's
it
one of the
can
reasons
be
I hate
bad.
woods.
It can be bad. It can be bad over on that side, but I actually prefer. Maybe this is just me then, because I actually prefer the Scav House side of the map. That's actually like my bit that I like to play in. It's actually the place I tell everybody to go and get scav kills as well. Like my secret spot on woods. Secret spot is becoming less secret the bigger the channel gets. And you can just like lie down there and kill people, kill scavs, whatever. And it's like it's a really great spot. So I actually love that whole area. And other than the spawn right in the top right, up in the northeast, that one you can't, like, because you can have that spawn camped by the other spawns. So that one is kind of bad, but it doesn't happen very often, to be honest.
You're talking about the Ewan truck?
The one it's over by the rocks over on that northeast wall. So like when you're right up there, further down, like further to the east than the truck itself. So it's like further along than the outskirts.
Yeah,
I'm talking about. It's like outskirts and even more east. There's like right in the corner. No, this is completely the other side. This is the east side of the map. This is the
sorry, you're talking about the truck being in the middle of the road. You've got to the left of it or the right of it if you're looking at the extract. So to the left of it, you've got the kind of the rock and pebbles and the kind of coast.
Because are you guys talking about the big main road extract area? Because because Scav
that's where I thought you meant before. But
I'm talking about I'm talking about Scav House. I'm talking about
what's
Scav
north
House.
though?
But in that corner behind.
Is north
What's
the lake
north on woods?
or south? The south is the truck, right? Like the one where you pay money. Is that what? Because when you say east, I'm thinking, what is that extract all the way out there on the east side, like past north of Red Rebel extract? Because you got two of them, right? You got the one that's like the blue truck with the green crate. You know what I'm talking about?
And then wow, you're on the completely different. We've literally all three of us are talking about different parts of the map.
Yeah, because that's the west side to me.
That's the west side for me.
So what's the spawn you're talking about on the east side then? Because for some reason I thought you were talking about the west side.
I'm talking about the east side. I'm talking about the spawn just near Scav House, but it's like further into the corner.
Okay, where like the trucks to your right and Scav House to your left.
If you're looking towards
if you look
the
out
other side of the map,
if you're looking out from there, because
I'm
very like map centric. I think about the map more than anything else. I'm very bad at
bring on the
directions.
compass.
I'm
talk about the compass because none of us.
I'm actually really bad. I'm really bad at directions, and it's what makes interchange really bad for me. And I find like I'm challenged. I am actually challenged when it comes to
interchange is great. Just remember the store names.
Yeah, the store names.
That's why you can just say the store names.
Directions.
Then you don't have to worry where it is.
It's awful for
Tech-like.
me. It's awful for me.
That way.
But I feel like okay, trying to like short circuit this and get this back on track, because now they're talking about maps and now everything's so confused. The Scav House side, like I feel if you spawn at Scav House, you just have to play that area and ignore Sawmill. I think like if people are running straight to Sawmill on
100%.
that east side,
That's what I
then
mean.
you're gonna die and you're playing it wrong, because you've got that whole open area, you've got the bunker section down by the wall, but even that's kind of sketchy because you can be seen from the other side, because the wall is like you're just silhouetted against the wall. You may as well be against like the running along the top of a hill line on the sky, because the wall is white and you're like PMC shaped in front of it. People can just snipe you from wherever. So I feel like you have to play that section kind of on its own, and then you have to think about Sawmill afterwards. And like, it sucks if you're trying to kill Sherman or someone, but like you're just not going to get there, like not safely anyway.
No, you're not. You're gonna die on your way, and there'll be somebody that'll be waiting in a bush somewhere for you to run past, and they'll just kill you on the way.
It's because it's a U-shaped map, right? And if you're spawned in the top right corner up by a scav house, and there's spawns all along this U on your side, you got someone close to the lake, and then in between this whole area. So this guy that spawns really close to Sawmill, he can decide if he wants to go rush Sawmill, or he could just turn around and just camp and wait.
Yes.
So you have to like fight your way through everybody.
The worst guy there. So in that top corner, the one that I don't like is the spawn or fighting. I don't like people spawning on the one next to the lake, because the people next to the lake can camp that corner spawn, and it's very hard for you to get out. The only way you can really do it is to push along the north westwards directly towards them and up to the truck past the actual exfil and fight them that way. I don't think there's really any other sensible way of doing it, as quickly as you can. You have to kind of get up there, because then it's like they're down here and you're down here, and there's like a ridge line in between, and then it's kind of fair at least.
So the problem with that spawn, if you're in that corner next to along the wall by the lake, is just across from there is Pebbles, which is the rocks if you're looking from there to Scav House, not Scav House, sorry, to attachment cabin. That line of pebbles. There is now a spawn, and it happens all the time to me. One group will spawn on the pebbles, and one group will spawn in the corner, and you spawn looking at each other. You cannot not. You spawn facing each other, and it's just like 3, 2, 1, and fight. And it literally is. You just spawn facing each other, and you end up dying instantly or killing a team instantly. It's one of the two. There's no forgiveness in it at all. That's the thing I hate about Woods, and that's why I've stopped playing Woods this patch, and I'm waiting for the update. Is because the spawns are 100% broken.
3 paces, everyone draws their revolvers, right? It's like
exactly that. It's almost like there should be an unwritten rule that if you spawn there, one of you runs one way and the other runs the other, and you try and find each other again.
Yeah, I used to hate Woods, but I've grown. This wipe, I wanted to play more maps that I don't usually play, so Woods was one of them. And I've grown to like it because once you get past the spawn system, the way the map flows, it can be really interesting, because there's choke points, you can flank, like you have different options, and you could engage if you try to rush Sawmill or get on Dickhead Rock or something early. You could get shot from behind while you're fighting a guy over by Red Rebel Extract. Like, it's super interesting how the map flows once you get past the spawns.
It's a map that has to have. If you don't have patience on Woods, you can't do it. So I had a game yesterday at Night Woods, and it was for Blowiny's guide quest, and 3 of us went in with Reapers, nighttime, M1A with Reapers, and we were against another squad that had at least 2 Reapers, and we were under Sniper Scav on the end of Spine there, and they were by the car extract, and we couldn't see them, but they could see us, and so I kind of feel that the choke points at the moment, like the way to get around that was to retreat and go down to the beach and round, and do it as quick as you can so they can't go back and flank, and you can just get around them. But the flank to actually try and kill them is so dangerous, having to go into Sawmill if Sturman's there or if anyone else is there. And there's so many scabs that actually you just give away your position straight away, because you end up having to shoot and kill them or something along those lines. So I just feel that although Wood has a lot of good combat and it's a good map, I kind of feel that it's just fully laid out, in my opinion. Well, I kind of hope that's what they're fixing.
Well, see, I really wonder that, because I feel like they're going about it the way they did with customs. Because what they're doing, if I understand correctly, is it's a U, and then they're going to extend the bottom part. So whereas customs was like a line,
make it wider,
and they just made it wider, right? It kind of because they're probably not going to spawn anyone down in there.
I've got every faith that it's going to be better. I just really hope that they do what the issue they sorted on customs. So customs, going back to before this wipe, before this patch, for the expansion, went to gas. Oh, look, no Reshala. I'll go to dorms. That was
Right.
basically it.
Right.
Anyone running through construction was basically doing a task,
Hmm.
in my opinion.
Yeah.
And that was the kind of route. And there was too little to do on the map. Now, when the game first came out, don't get me wrong, it was a really good map and it had a lot of variety because it was new and people were running solo a lot more than running in teams. But second you get a 5-man on customs before the expansion, it was just so ridiculous. Like a 5-man group running from one side of the map to the other, they could basically just split out and see everyone and kill them
Yeah.
as they went across the bridges and stuff. I love the way that customs are now laid out because if you spawn in Big Red, okay, some of the spawns are slightly broken at the moment,
Sure.
but you have to push across the bridges. So
Right.
you've instantly got different layers to the map. So
Yeah.
you've got Big Red area. You then have fights at the bridges. You then move from the bridges and you either go towards dorms, straight down the middle of the road, or you go crack house. And then you can from each place you can go to the next place. So it's almost like they've completely widened it and given you far more places where you can get into interesting combat, but
They
also reasons to go to other places on the map now. You don't have to go to dorms to get your loot. You can go wherever you want, and there's chances to get decent loot in every part of the map, which is why I think they've done really well with the customs expansion. They've completely revolutionized it.
I think the customs expansion is quite cool, but I had kind of mixed feelings about it. I think it's good because it's the beginner map, and I think that they needed to reduce the amount of PvP on customs. But I actually do miss a little bit the density of PMCs. I don't feel like it's fixed the Big Red problems. I feel like Big Red is very similar to how it was before, except it's slightly
Not really
better
changed
because
at
some
all.
people run from the train straight across the river now into the new area. So sometimes there's one group that's missing. But other than that,
Yeah.
I feel like Big Red's kind of the same. And all they've done is kind of like short circuit the middle of the map through the bottom. And yeah, now there's loot on that map, which is actually also quite good. And I think it's better for new players. But I feel like customs has become a little bit more boring for me in some ways. I don't know. I just think it's a bit more dull. Like I used to find people. I don't because I don't really like. I'm not a player that will like go to dorms to find PvP. I tend to do a lot of my fighting outside, and I don't know whether this is just because of like AD spam. I'm not really that keen on it, or whether it's because like the previous FPSs that I was playing. Well, I played PUBG for like 3 years, and that's all outside pretty much. There's some interior stuff, but it's not really a focus, right? Most of PUBG's outside, and it's just kind of what I'm used to. I'm not sure, but I found that previously, just like going through the map, you would find fights around customs before, whereas now, if you try and play it in the same way, like I might find one person, but then that'll be it. And you have to go to like here is a designated PvP zone to actually go and fight anybody. Whereas I used to more enjoy just bumping incidentally into other people doing stuff, which I feel like I don't that much anymore.
Yeah. I don't know. I disagree. I find I bump into people more now than I did before. I mean, the difficulty before was everyone was going in a line. So if you bumped into anyone around dorms, you would always get third party or even fourth party, and it became a cluster people fighting. And I kind of feel I don't miss fight. I like fighting people in dorms. Don't get me wrong, but I really don't miss the fact that you would fight in dorms, and then as soon as you win, that was like, okay, well, you got 5-second break, and now round 2, let's go on. As you hear pushing outside, and the next people come in. Okay, well, I cleared that wave. Oh, what do you know? It's the boss wave, and suddenly the 4-man geared worth of Chads come in and just wipe the floor of you, and all the combat was in that fixed area. But I kind of feel that with the expansion, there are hot spots, but I feel that the map is utilized a lot more. Flanking is so much more fun on customs now. So if you get into a fight around Skeleton 2, so the new skeleton building at the end of the construction area,
Yeah.
which is a great place because you can see dorms, you can see gas, and you can see Skeleton 3. It's kind of the central point. Get into a fight near or around there, you can literally flank in any direction and get behind the people or find them from another vantage point, which I think is so useful. And if you get into a fight over in the dorms area, 2-story, 3-story, I don't think any of that magic has been taken away from you. I think that's all almost exactly the same. And the new expansion doesn't affect the combat that you get over there. I just feel that you have far more interesting fights now that you can go in and out of the windows on dorms. I think that actually
That was a good change.
now
Yeah.
it's no longer the
That was a good change. I
age
agree.
of who's wearing an Alton or a level 6. and just
Right.
charging down the corridor. It's now the age of who's got the biggest balls to jump out the window, come back in somewhere else, and kill them. It's
I'm
it's
third floor.
almost
You
a
gonna come up,
great
bro? I'm
change.
holding third floor. You coming up?
The
You know?
amount of genuinely, the amount of times on third floor that I've been killed by someone going out onto the roof and jumping through that fucking window
Yeah,
to
that
come
is.
back in instead of the corridor, and I'm literally chasing them. They run on the roof, I run out on the roof, they come through the window and come back round and kill me from behind. I mean, it took me at least 5 deaths to realize that's what they were doing. I was like, "How did they get back inside? This guy's blatantly hacking. He's like flying. I have no idea how he's doing it." And then someone in chat said, "You know you can jump through the windows now, right?" No clue. Completely missed that, and I think that's an incredible change. And I think those kind of small tweaks that they're making, even on the fact that they haven't changed dorms at all in terms of the map design, just
Mhm.
the fact that you can now go in and out of windows makes it so much more interesting to have
Yeah.
PMC fights there. And I kind of feel that yes, if you hadn't evaluated the expansion, just made that small change, it would have improved the life of dorms because it gives you far more options. You can now jump out the window, you can now run away, you can now do whatever you need to do. You don't have to go through one of the main exits. So I'm definitely think that the change is a really good thing, and I've found that I've been running into far more people having far more interesting PMC fights from lots of different angles than just a linear I'm on that side, he's on that side, or I see him type shoot kill thing.
How much fighting have you guys actually done in the new zone? Because I have not done that much. Like there was some at the beginning, but I don't find I'd see that many people in the new
Tons.
area.
Tons in Crack House, tons in Skeleton Free, especially
At
when
the, yeah,
Scout Boss
at the
is there.
beginning in Krakow, sure, but um,
I think what
Even
it
now, I mean,
is.
I'll go to Crack House and see bodies there all the time.
I think what it is what they done is they effectively added a third lane. Because before it
Yeah.
was dorms route, which was the top
Mhm.
side, and then it was down the middle. And you had like these side lanes like that would lead to the main middle lane, but there wasn't no way to go through construction or around what would be Crack House now, to like as a third lane per se. And so you have like as a new player, you're trying to learn the map, you don't realize that you're walking into a choke point, like the bridge, for
Yeah.
example, or the train tracks. So I think there's less maybe choke point engagements and more just like you happen to be crossing paths at like random locations. And I do think that's why sometimes you go through the map and you don't have any PvP combat because maybe some crazy fight happened in some random area, like that could be the only thing I would guess as to why maybe for you, Giga, you haven't seen or
Mm.
felt like there's been a decrease. And I think so too, because before there was such a big focus on either I'm doing dorms or I'm doing quests. Whereas
Yeah.
now you
Yeah.
maybe have different options or, so.
This is like kind of random and off topic, but I do almost feel like do you guys get the feeling that you get slightly different raids if you're playing solo versus in a group, like a
I
duo?
was literally
Absolutely.
about to say this.
Absolutely.
I was literally about to say, is this something because I'm normally not playing solo? So do you think I'm going in and finding more PMC, etc., and combat because I'm the game style that I'm playing? Because I'm
Maybe.
guessing that you don't run and gun. And you play a slightly slower game than the average duo or trio
I
would.
think so because you have to, but I wouldn't say that I'm necessarily like that slow.
Lowenny's just said Giga hasn't seen any combat because it takes him 20 minutes to get from Big Red to Crack House with broken legs.
That's because okay, well, this is a whole nother topic, and a topic that's actually really
I saw
interesting.
it. It's definitely true.
About hardcore, right? And this is that's a whole another discussion for in a little bit, I think. But because this is like that's like part of the post Kappa discussion. But yeah, look, I mean, I mean, yeah, it's when you're playing solo, you have to play slightly
You have to
more
be more careful.
methodical. You have to be
Yeah,
more
you have to
careful.
You
really check
landmark
your
it.
corners. Like you have to take your
Yeah.
time. If you just run in like, "Hey, bro, I'm just gonna sprint to the extract," that's just how you get shot. So
Yeah, yeah. So I think there's that, but almost like what I was kind of getting to. Do you think that I don't think this has ever been confirmed either which way? Because I always assumed that it was it's just completely random. But I don't know whether if you're solo, you're more likely to run into other solos, whether you're matched with duos and
Statistically,
squads
so
less.
logically and statistically, if you think about it, I think they will put solo people in to fill up numbers. If you have a raid that's got a 5-man, 3-man, and a 2-man, and then you're the solo, you are going to run into less people because you're effectively there's only 4 groups of people in that raid, so you might run into 1 or maybe 2, but
Yeah.
you're not going to necessarily see all of them. So I think you're going to just get put into fill gaps where there's bigger groups, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
and
But if you're a 2-man, then there's less chance of you filling a 5-man raid. So it depends on how many large groups are in the raid, I think, as to how many people you see.
yeah, and I think on that, like, that's even. 'Cause I don't feel like I necessarily see that many massive groups. Like, I don't feel like I really fight against four-man and 5-man squads very often, honestly, just in general. And that might be like I feel like maybe it's to do with some kind of slant on the way that they actually stack the games, but it could also be to do with the fact that, as you say, right, if the squad is, the match has got a 5-man, a 4-man, a 3-man, and then me in there, right? The 3-man and the 5-man are really likely to see each other. There's lots of people to see each other, and if anyone on your squad sees anyone from their squad, a fight begins, right? And so you're really likely to get into combat if you're in a big squad. Just I'm with another big squad. Whereas if as a solo player and you go through one of these other lanes, and people are just much less likely to see you because you're just one person and you just slip through the crack, right? Whereas like a whole squad moving through the map is much more easily seen by other people, and maybe that's part of it because I get engaged upon a lot less because I'm playing solo and I'm being much safer anyway, and so I'm kind of like slipping through the shadows, making sure I'm covered at all times, etc., etc. So I'm seen less.
You can pick your fights as well.
Yeah, I can pick my fights a bit better, and
I mean, you did it the other day when we were
flanker too.
watching. You hid in a bush as someone ran past because there was no way that you could possibly kill him when you were all messed up, you were injured, and you had terrible ammo because you were playing on your hardcore
Yeah, and I
account.
didn't fight him.
You literally let someone run straight past you, and he walked within a meter of you.
Yeah.
And you didn't turn, you didn't make noise, you just literally waited. And I told you that I was very disappointed because I wanted you to see you die. But I mean, it was the right play. It definitely was the right play. But
if it wasn't my last set of guns, then I might have.
Yeah. But maybe that's what it is. Maybe patience and a good head on you is what makes a good solo player. Maybe
I'm
that's
quite
why I
patient.
can't play solo.
I'm quite patient, I have to say.
Shift W is the only way. Yeah.
What do you guys think about the heavy bleed? Because for me, I wonder how it's going to be implemented. If it's going to be like a random chance to proc a heavy bleed, or if it's going to be
I think
tied
if you're going to
to.
get shot late wipe, you're not going to have any light bleeds. It's going to be nothing but heavy bleeds because the ammo. I think the damage and the ammo type is going to have a big effect as to what bleed
That's
is.
what I was
I
wondering.
think
Is it
if
going
it's
to
a
be like a high damage relates to a higher chance of heavy bleed? Is it going to relate to the
I think high
fragmentation?
flesh damage. Yeah, I'm wondering if it's going to be something like high flesh
Yeah,
damage
that's
is
what I
heavy
wonder.
bleed.
Yeah.
But I mean, I kind of feel that it's. I hated the weight system when they introduced the weight system, but now that they've got the mule stim, and now sorry, I don't know why I'm sneezing so much. But now that they've got the weight system, and now that we've had a chance to level our strength from the beginning of the wipe, and they've not just introduced it at the end when no one has their strength leveled, and all that kind of stuff. I really like the weight system. I think that it's added a lot to the game. I think the heavy bleeding is going to be the same thing. It's going to take us a while to get used to it, but I think that it's going to have a decent impact on the game.
Yeah.
The reason I say that is because the blood trails, for one. I mean, it's going to be so useful being able to see where someone's run because there's a trail of blood following them. It means that if you're a solo player and you get hurt, it's going to be a lot harder for you to be able to actually hide and heal up or lie in a bush and let them walk past and not know where you are. It's going to make a huge difference to the game. And I just really hope that they actually update the current med kits, like the Grizzly kit that will become useful again and stuff, to be able to deal with those heavy bleeds rather than having to have another 2 or 3 slots in your inventory taken up by more different types of meds that you're going to have just to cope with that one situation.
I think it's going to be
That would be
interesting
the
to see,
downside for me.
I think it's going to be interesting to see exactly how much damage it does, because there's certain things in the game that matter or don't matter right now, right? And they said like, oh, the IFAK's going to be able to heal it temporarily, I think, and then you're going to be able to take like Zagustin stim and that kind of thing. And I think it's going to be interesting to see just like how long that pushes it out for, because there's certain things like if you're sprinting around on broken legs or whatever, it doesn't really hurt you that much. It's fine. And so if the IFAK kind of deals with it, then I don't think it's going to be that big a deal. But I think it's another. I actually don't mind that they make you take more items, because I feel in some ways like I like having more decisions to make, and I just feel like if you. Broadly speaking, I like having to make more choices, and especially hard choices.
Yes.
But
Yes.
that said, like if it's just going to kill you, then it's not really a choice anymore. And so I think they need to be quite careful with how they do it, right? Because
That's
it needs to
true.
be a choice to either bring or not bring that item. And so it needs to be balanced in such a
Like
way that
splints.
like
Splints are an item that
yeah,
you choose
yeah.
to or not take with you, and it's a pain in the ass when you don't have one. But 9 times out of 10, you won't need one because if you get shot, you're going to die anyway. Type situation.
And you can just
So
use
I think,
painkillers, and it's like running is you just can't run and you can
Yeah,
walk normally. That's fine. So
that's kind of where it is for me.
yeah,
Is it going to be like on the spectrum on one side where I just pop a painkiller and I'm good to go, or is it going to be like if I don't take care of this bleed immediately, I'm going to die in the next 5 seconds? So I fear that it's going to be on either one side of the spectrum, and ideally somewhere in the middle would be where we want
I
it.
hope. I hope that a skill level increase will also help you on this one.
Yeah,
Like at the moment, I don't know if anyone notices, but like your endurance has a massive difference. Like who here has done a wipe and they've gone back to running with minimal endurance and been like, oh my god, I can literally run 10 feet and my character's so fat he falls over and basically dies. But if you get to max level endurance, you can literally sprint from one side of a map to another. It's crazy. So
hmm
I'm hoping there's going to be some form of like the health skill at the moment. It does X, Y, and Z. I hope actually as you level your health skill or med, they'll do something like, for instance, the time to apply meds will be reduced, or something along those lines. You get better at doing it. You get more experience at doing it. Like if you're wrapping a bandage, suddenly your bandage is much quicker to apply, or you're putting a tourniquet on, or all those kind of things. I think could be quite a cool little feature if, as you leveled it, it improved. That makes sense.
mm. Yeah, I think that could be quite good because then it's not just like a pain that you just have to manage continually from
Yeah,
the moment the patch drops and you're like always having to think about this like small because I think that's what would make it the worst, right? I think that's what would make it the worst is if it's a small chance like if you don't bring the thing with you, there's a small chance that then it just kills you and that's
yeah,
it. And you're like there's no mitigation, there's no way that you can get to the exit or whatever. And so it's kind of like do I bring it to the raid and you know have a normal raid like it was before because if you have the item it's not going to make any difference really, or I don't have the item with me and then I've got a small chance that I just die outright. I think that's what would be like the worst outcome for it because it just makes the game more unpredictable and annoying without actually adding anything positive.
yeah, it's very frustrating, and it's going to be the kind of thing that you don't get it back on insurance. So it's the kind of thing that nobody will ever loot someone if it's just like a tourniquet because everyone's going to have them. It's like alu splints. Like you
right.
take alu splints if they got 5 out of 5, but you never take the single splints off of a person. You
And
always
even
try and leave
then,
it.
usually you keep your alu splint in your container, right? So
Exactly. The majority of them. I don't know why, so I've got a half a med case full of them, but I always get upset when I lose an alu splint for no reason. But
I think it's because they're
I
so
mean,
coveted when you're a new player, right? And you're just like that.
yeah.
Sometimes that never goes away. You've got this kind of like thing in your brain of like, oh, alu splint.
but
So
will
chat said
this
something quite interesting that they're basically saying, well, actually, it will make IFAKs. IFAKs are going to be a lot more useful as a single slot medkit that
mm,
can temporarily solve the issue. But stuff like car medkits, the cheaper medkits that you use early on, are going to become next to useless in
yeah,
comparison because half the time you're not going to be able to use them to actually heal up or fix a bleed. So what actually happens if you've got a heavy bleed and you use a car medkit? Will it heal up the limb and you can constantly heal through the damage, even though you're going to be losing blood and losing health still? Or is it going to be the fact that if you've got a heavy bleed, you can't use the more simpler AI2 or car medkits on that injury until you've used a tourniquet and stopped the bleeding?
I think you're still going to be able to use them. I would imagine you'd be able to heal through.
I think if I
You'll be able to heal through.
remember the video demonstration, it looked to me like it when he used an IFAK, it had like the bandage icon where the bleed was, and then maybe like 30 seconds later he was heavy bleeding again. So maybe it's like you know how like the IFAK when you use it to stop a bleed, it takes out a portion of HP. Maybe you could do that X amount of times, and then from there you just gotta start using cheese or whatever.
Yeah,
I don't know. We'll have to
yeah,
see.
potentially.
We will have to see. Um, yeah. So, did you guys want to talk? I think like we had in our notes, and someone actually in my chat just mentioned something along the lines of like play past Kappa and about a bit about the end game. And I
Uh,
think like we said that we were going to talk about it if you guys are ready to
Yeah,
move
I
on.
think it's a hugely
Yeah.
important thing because it's the first time I've ever got past Kappa this wipe. It's the first time I've ever had Kappa. As my chat will know, oh my god, was it disgusting trying to get to that point.
Yeah,
And it was
likewise.
fun, it was a grind, but the second you get Kappa, you kind of have all that tension leave your shoulders and you're like, right, hang on, what's next? What do I do now? And the answer before anyone says it is not to run killer 100 times on interchange. No, no, thank you. That is not an acceptable answer that I will take from anyone. So it kind of is. What happens after Kappa?
Because this is what, so in my chat, this is what the guy said. He said, look, I'm curious, being a player with 1,500 hours in the game, who plays solo and duo, Kappa required on 100 plus mil. I struggle to find motivation to play raids when I feel like I'm risking way more than anyone else, especially when I have been having terrible luck and my last 3 raids have been ended by someone running a GL. Curious to know what keeps you motivated to play once the tasks are complete, which I think is actually quite a good question. It sort of sums up the what next of Tarkov.
Yeah,
and
I think that depends on the person. Surely, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm
'Cause
sure that the 3 of us will have completely different motives to play the
Probably.
game, even though we all play it in the same way.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I wanted to go for Kappa this fight, but I lost motivation because I'm a standard account player, and so I have Epsilon, which is one
Oof.
less than
Oh,
Gamma. Yeah, I know, right?
your stash, painful.
Expensive to upgrade, yeah. So
Yeah.
those extra 3 slots, I don't find enjoyable to do all these annoying quests, right? Like the value isn't there for me. But in some ways it's interesting because what you said, you were jokingly saying, what's next to do Killa 100 times? To other people, that would be it. Maybe it's not about the reward, but it's just doing something. You
It's
know,
a
the
target. It gives
struggle.
them something to do.
Yeah, but it's like that release once you complete it. Like you finally got Kappa. It's like wow, and then it's like, well, now what? You know, it's just interesting
Well,
to me.
from my perspective, I'm actually enjoying the game again. So I did not enjoy doing some of those quests. Like some of them are
Yeah.
fun, don't get me wrong. I don't mind doing some of them. Some of them take it a bit extreme in terms of wear this with this attachment and this
Hmm.
specific headdress and go and kill 450 scavs in the dark, backwards, upside down, while they're talking to someone else. And like some of the things that they're asking you to do make it really difficult to complete them. And I think that's part of the fun, but it definitely sucked the fun out of it for me. I mean, Insomnia especially, I just completely not see why the times are between 11 and 4. I get that it's
Yeah.
to get you to go Night Factory because otherwise Night Factory is pointless. But just that was the quest for me that had me just frothing at the mouth. I hated it. And actually, I was losing. I didn't have any money. I was losing gear. I was still going in. I was just going in for the point of trying to get these quests done, and it wound me up. And every stream, I would just be leaving the stream having felt like I'd not done particularly well in the game because you just can't. But now that I've got Kappa, I'm going into raids that I want to go into. I'm going into mats with myself or other people, and I'm effectively going for PvP. I'm going to loot and PvP. And I'm enjoying it far more because I can direct my own raid. I don't have to go
Yeah.
this place and drop 3 gold chains in a microwave. You know, I don't have to do X, Y, and Z. I can actually go and enjoy something that I want to enjoy with the gear that I'm earning and see my stash value go up. So for me, after Kappa, I think it's safe to say is to get an increase in stash value. I want to loot. I'm here to loot people and I like looting people. I love Diablo 3. I love looting games.
Hmm.
That is what drives me to now play is the fact that I've got all the money, all the gear that I want, and I can now start increasing my empire of my stash essentially. But I know that that's probably not the same for Gigabeef. I'm pretty sure that you're probably finding it quite difficult to find content, which is why you've gone on to the ultra hardcore I want to kill myself type game mode that you're doing.
Well, okay, so for me, there's kind of like 2 opposing things. So I do. It's funny actually because like at the beginning, I did have that sensation of like, oh, okay, it's kind of finished. What next? And I wanted to do Kappa for my own kind of, just my own kind of like, I don't know, achievement, so to speak. Like the three slots in the case really don't make any difference at all.
Hmm.
They don't matter at all. It's literally just for kind of like my own prestige and my own kind of like I don't know, feeling of accomplishment for myself. Like it's a challenge that I wanted to do, and then like the closer I got, the more I wanted it. I was like, actually, I think this is possible and I can do this. And I sort of became a bit more hardcore about it for myself, being like, I want to do this, and I've been doing it mostly on stream as well, like pretty much all on stream. I pretty much only play on stream now, actually.
Horrid.
And I got to the stage, I got to the stage towards the end where I was like, I actually want to finish it solo as a point of pride. For myself, just to know that I've finished the game on my own. And if I've got chat there with me, then that's awesome. Which is, it actually heightens the enjoyment for me playing with chat, especially solo, because I never used to play solo in PUBG. And so I'm really, really pleased that I did it that way. For me, I think it made me so pleased and so happy when I did it, and especially with everybody there, it was like super awesome. And I did have that quick moment of just like, okay, what am I going to do now afterwards? There are still some other quests, but I'm probably not going to bother doing them because I just don't feel the need. I don't feel the same kind of need for it. And for me, it's kind of like it's split between two things. It's like running guns and equipment and stuff for YouTube style tutorial things that I haven't been able to do yet, and equipment that I haven't been able to have a deep look into yet, that I would like to test and play. And then on the other side, it's like thinking about alternative ways to play, which is kind of like where this like extra trail of thought has gone, which ended up me playing a little bit of hardcore because I was just intrigued. Because it was funny because it sort of had something that somebody said to me kind of almost had the opposite effect to what I think they had in mind, which was kind of interesting. So there was a discussion on one of my videos about, I think it was actually the original podcast video that we did, about how, people who say that, they need something to do in Tarkov, maybe the game wasn't really for them in the first place. Mm-hmm. And I kind of like thought about that, and I was like, I get it. Like that kind of makes sense. And I was thinking like, like PUBG, there's no traders and there's no quests, so there's no real progression except for in the game. DayZ, there's progression in the game, but there's no traders, there's no quests. People just play the game to play the game. And I was like, well, what happens if you just play Tarkov? You just play Tarkov. That's it. You just play Tarkov. No traders, no quests, no nothing. None of that stuff. No flea market. Just don't bother with anything. Just go into raids, find stuff. It's basically like, it's Tarkov, but it's actually DayZ. And I was like trying to brainstorm like what to do with like a challenge mode almost. And that like, I mean, I could talk about that more in a minute if you want to respond to that first, because it's kind of its own topic. But yeah, I don't know. It's kind of like it's kind of two things for me. It's testing out stuff and thinking of like new and interesting challenges, because I don't really like looting.
I think
it's content.
Yeah, it's like going back to what the original question was, like what is there to do after Kappa, right? And I think at that point there is no content, so they have two routes they can go. And one route would be adding more content. And this is more like a singular or single player type of game. That for me is like how I look at it. Whereas like refining the gameplay loop to me is more of like a multiplayer online experience, right? Something like I don't know.
It's like World of Warcraft and stuff where you do the raid over and over again because you want the one drop. I mean, there is no like, one drop, but that's I love seeing what people mechanic,
have. Right? Whereas like adding a new zone or new map would be like content. But in the long term, I don't think that's like sustainable, just like to keep adding content. Like they could keep adding quests and quests and quests and quests, but I don't think that's their model, their business model, right? They want to be done with this game in the coming years or whatnot. So to me, it comes down to
coming decade.
Yeah. To me, it's like you just play the game, right? You just experience the gameplay loop. And for me, I haven't played the game in like 2 months because I just sort of lost motivation for Kappa, and the loop is just acquiring wealth. And once you get a certain amount of wealth, there's just not, I don't know, I don't feel like, I feel like I could run Meta Gear for like 10 days straight, and I probably should have done that, but I focused so much on like acquiring wealth that I got stuck in this mentality like, okay, every raid I have to profit.
And I think I actually genuinely think this is why I ended up on this track, right? Of just being like, what happened to just playing the game for its own sake, right? And it's like people play CS or whatever, and they come out. There's no like stash, there's no net worth or anything, and people like
that's rank. They go for rank.
They do. That's true. But you know what I mean, right? It's like if people are playing like raid based things, and even something like DayZ, and there's progression in that game. I feel like I feel like sometimes we get so sucked into kind of the economy and the economy set, because Tarkov is an economy game. I say this all the time. It is a game about economy and about making money, right? It's a money making game in a kind of a very sort of anarchistic kind of way. But that's what it is ultimately. But I think sometimes we like get so focused on that we actually like miss the fact that just going into raids and playing the game to go and kill people, which is kind of what I like to do, is fun on its own. And that's what I've kind of spent the first bit of my time doing, is like running fun kits and stuff and testing out new things. But for me, it's like going to raids and just fighting, just going and fight people. And it's not like I'm not like a big like labs PvP, dorms PvP, factory PvP kind of person, but I'm happy to run around woods, have a bunch of fights, get some loot off some players and leave. And if I kill a couple of PMCs, then that's great, right? Like I have a great time doing it, and that's how it used to be for me when I was playing PUBG back then, right? It's the same thing. You get into final circle and have some great raids or get great fights, and you might not win, but you had some like awesome firefights, and it was super cool and pull off some good strats and stuff. And like I think the game in and of itself actually is really quite good outside of some networking problems, and we get so hung up on the economy part and like I can now run 100 meta kits or whatever. It's like, is that a problem? Like it's fine, right? We can still play the game. It's okay, and it's fun to play.
Yeah,
I think that's kind of where I got to.
It's the difficulty is BSG have already failed in their end game because they released labs, and I don't know if you're around Gigabeef, but when they released labs at the time, was their end game. Oh my god, you can now go into labs, you can get your key cards, you can go into labs. That was what they were planning to do. It was going to be the end game arena that everyone could only really get to once they had gotten the kit to go there, and it was so hard to play. But actually, that's become Hacker's Paradise, but that's probably a whole different story. But that's their end game, which I don't think is suitable. I think it's a great idea as having labs as a map. I don't have a problem with that, but it's not an end game. And I think the way that as Church was saying, there's two avenues that you can go down: either releasing DLC and keep expanding it, or people enjoy the game for what it is, and actually they find what they enjoy in the game and continue to do that. So I, for instance, had a really good friend in this game that didn't play Tarkov for Tarkov. He played it for the flea market. The guy had billions of rubles because that's what he did. He played the flea market. He loved the economy game. He would, as you were saying in last wipe, you would make money from buying ammo from traders and selling it on the flea market. You'd flip it. Well, he made all of his money from buying and selling, doing barter trades, and literally played the market. And he would make over 10 million a day in rubles because he got 50 slots on the flea market, and he loved doing that. They changed the flea market. He's never come back to it since because they changed the game that he enjoyed. Now, I really enjoy looting people, so I like doing PMC fights. I like doing PvP. I like getting that stuff, and I like being able to take it out of raid. And I feel like that's the sense of accomplishment, getting those trophies. But I do think that BSG could do a few simple things to give people kind of a quality of life, like introducing natural quests. So not going out and specifically trying to do it, but they already track the stats, but if you kill 1,000 scavs, you get a cosmetic item or something along those lines. Stuff that they can actually kind of offer people for the long term, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. I mean, this is kind of like the original reason why.
I'm still listening, but I really need to run to the loo, so I'll be 1 second.
Okay, all right. Hopefully you turn your mic off. I think it's like this is the original point that we were talking about, right? The other day when we had our chat about, and the reason why I was interested in hardcore and wondering whether that would extend it out, because I was trying to make parallels previously with actual RPGs, and you touched on it, Shifty, which reminded me about people run, the same, because you mentioned Diablo 3, and I actually played a lot. I didn't play that much Diablo 3. I played some, but I played a lot of Diablo 2. And you run the same boss over and over and over again to go and get that, tiny infinitesimal chance drop. But I because I've had time more to reflect on it as well, and I feel like EFT's not. I don't know if it really lends itself well to that kind of thing, because firstly you'd have to decide, okay, well, what is that drop going to be that's actually going to be worth it? Like, I don't feel like it can be the red SI advanced tube that is really rare, but all it does is give you like 4% accuracy, because they wouldn't want to make something completely OP, because that would just sort of take the point out of the game in some ways. And then at the same time, because everything that you own in game is transitory, right? Like you die with it and then it's gone. Like that's kind of the beauty of the RPGs where you run the boss like 1,000 times and then you get this rare drop and you get to attach whatever it is to a piece of equipment, or it's a high rolled piece of loot or whatever. You then get to keep that forever. Whereas on EFT, right, everything you have is going to go eventually if you use it, and so it's not the same. And I feel that that's quite like because I thought maybe they could go down that route, but I'm just not sure if they can, and especially not with the flea, which is what brought me on to thinking, well, why don't they have a completely separate hardcore server where people, the only thing maybe you can buy from level 1 traders, but after that everything's found in raid, and then it would be kind of like
I've talked about that. They have talked about introducing a separate kind of, you can have your one account, but you can have different accounts on that account. So you can do an actual hardcore account that's set to specific hardcore rules like Deadly Slob has. And you can turn off flea market and X, Y, and Z on that account in later when they release it. Physically can't go on the flea market, and you only see those bits of the game. And you can run that as a completely different stash and as a separate account to if you're running the main game.
yeah.
The thing that actually brings it together though is the fact that you would still be going up against people from the main game.
Yeah,
You just
which I
wouldn't
don't
have
think
those
is.
aspects on
Yeah, I
raid.
don't think that's as good, right? I don't think that's as good. You want to be with people on the level playing field, which is
Yeah.
why like what I'm doing now is fun, right? It's kind of interesting. I'm just I'm experimenting as well. Like I actually don't know what's good or what's not, but I feel like they could add lots of different layers. I think people want more layers. That's what I think anyway. Like I was almost like brainstorming, just random brainstorming about things that they could do. Stuff like there's certain places which are more kind of like town like. You have Prapor who's supposed to be in the town map, which they haven't even released or talked about really yet. But the closer you are maybe to town, like you can then get stuff from the traders, whatever, and the flea market might be somewhere. But the further away you get, like if you're in reserve or you're in labs or whatever, then like you're miles away and you can't buy stuff from the flea anymore because it's too far. There's no traders nearby, so you can't buy anything. So everything that you get to those maps with, you have to have like brought with you or something, or you might even have like you might have to upgrade or build mini stashes on those maps on the transition from one map to another. I was just kind of like brainstorming, like how can you add extra layers to the game to make it more RPG
But
without it being
that's
like
the bit
somebody
that
getting
I'm
really
not
limber.
looking forward to. That's the bit that I don't like the idea of, is the
Really?
open world part of the game. I like the concept. I love the game that we're currently playing. I like the raid system, and so I don't want to have to go. I mean, from the point of view of the way they said to get to labs, you have to go in customs through factory and then into labs and then out of labs and back through factory and then back through customs. Like that to me means that you're going to be playing for the best part of 2 to 3 hours to do that one raid. And I get that, but I don't have that time to commit to something like that when 2 hours into that raid, you could literally come out of a door of factory into customs, get one shot from someone camping the door
Yeah.
that you've come out of. And that is 2.5 hours odd of your commitment down the drain. You've lost it all. And I get that's the concept of the game, but I think that that will take it to a place that I won't enjoy because I don't have 12 hours a day to play the game.
Have you guys
I like
ever
all the
played
ones in.
Rust? The game Rust.
I haven't.
Okay.
But that's
So
effectively, I've seen YouTube videos of it, and
yeah.
that's why I haven't played it, is because of the time commitment that you need to play the
Yes.
game.
Because in Rust, where it differs from EFT, they're both very similar in my opinion. Where it differs from EFT is, well, I guess in its current state, they're different in map design too. But Rust, for example, you have an open world, if you will, like it's a big map, and there's all these little points of interest where you could think of them as like customs and factory and etc., where they have like loot and good spawns, but they're usually gated somehow. Like you need to get, I'd have to go to like a low tier zone to get a key card to unlock a mid tier zone, right? So in that way, think of like EFT in that perspective, how they're different. When also in Rust, all the items you accumulate, you store in a physical location in a base that can be raided by other players. So at any point, you could wake up the next day, log on, and you're back to being a naked on the beach. Whereas in EFT, you constantly are building up a supply, and then slowly you take out a little bit each time.
Not slowly. I lose it quite quickly, actually.
Well, I guess it differs for each player, but for me, I think one of my mistakes this wipe was focusing so much on being super economic that I couldn't play the game normally without having money on my mind. Like every
Yeah,
raid was like, I need to make profit. Like I don't. Even
you're
though I have
counting the
like
rubles.
10 million in the stash and a ton of gear sets and boxes full of stuff. Like honestly, carrying boxes in your stash doesn't even make sense. Like it's better just to like sell everything and just buy as you go. But if they were to, when I don't know what open world's gonna look like, but switching Tarkov to an open world would be interesting in certain ways because, for example, in Rust they have traders, if you will, at certain locations, and the locations are a safe zone. Like you can't shoot or attack in the safe zone. If you try to, you'll just die
DayZ,
instantly.
that's
Yes,
exactly
and
what
I've been
DayZ.
trying
It
to
becomes
learn
a
more
running
about
simulator.
DayZ. Yeah.
I
So
mean, that's what I don't like is the idea of it becoming a running simulator. That I need to go to this trader.
yes,
He's in this
that's
area.
it's
I'm
like
need to
it's such
go
a
all the way across
pro and
7
con for sure.
continents.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But in some ways, one of the things you could do is like if you had something really valuable, but you had to go to a physical location to put on the flea market, it could make it more interesting gameplay because I could kill someone that had like a lab's key card, or I guess that wouldn't apply, but some really good armor or a good gun or whatever, a quest item they were trying to sell in the flea market they crafted in the hideout. It would just kind of open up the gameplay elements, in my opinion. But at
I
the
I
same
don't
time,
disagree. I just think it would
mhm,
make it a completely different game to what they're currently selling.
yeah,
I've invested in EOD. I like my EOD account, but I would not pay anywhere near that kind of money for DayZ, and that's effectively what it is. I know that that's where Nikita got the majority of what he likes about Tarkov is from DayZ. That's the kind of gameplay he likes. But for me, that's a completely different game to this. And actually, when they make it open world, if they don't leave the standard raid options, I very well could be moving on to something else because it's just I don't have time to commit to it.
I think that's a very interesting point, actually, because it's one thing that I've always said about DayZ is as much as I love the game, I used to play it back in university, but it's you basically have to play it like your real life,
yeah,
right? And the
it's
game
a
is
big
brilliant.
commitment.
Right? The game is absolutely brilliant, but it's like it's brilliant because of the peaks and troughs of stuff doesn't nothing happens for 3 hours. Well, for a lot of people, especially once you're kind of past student days or whatever, that's like maybe 2 evenings and for
Exactly,
nothing to
that's all
happen.
of your gaming time for a week
Yeah,
sometimes.
yeah, exactly. And so I do actually take your point there, but I still feel like there's some ways that they can they can kind of extend the game out without it being um
100%. I hope they do because I
without
would
it
love
being
to do it in open world. I love the idea about going over the mountain on shoreline into reserve. You see the dome, you can see it there. I'd love to be able to go from one to the other and go up the other side, the cliff descent to dome and suddenly be in reserve. I love that idea, but I want it to become open world in the sense that it literally becomes horrible to play. I like
Yeah,
uh Bungie's game, Destiny 2. Open world like Destiny 2, that's terrible. Open world like any game where you go for a checkpoint and suddenly everything has to load for 4 hours and you go in and then suddenly the mobs reset every 2 minutes and all that kind of crap. Could you
Mhm.
imagine going to customs and killing scabs and they respawn every 15 minutes because you're in an open world environment? You would just have people queuing there. It would become World of Warcraft, people trying to kill bunny rabbits in a field because the scabs respawn every 15 minutes. There's 5 of them. They spawn there, kill them, you move to your next place, you get your next thing.
I feel like
Has
it'll
to be
always
better than that.
be raid orientated, even if it's open world. I still think it'll be kind of like there'll be a pause between maps of some kind, right? It's just there'll
But
be
then how
kind of
many people are gonna go in on a server? Like, if you have an open world environment that is all of those maps together, to populate it with PMCs, I mean, currently, you're saying that you're struggling to find people on customs, and there's 12 people on customs. If you put 12 PMCs across every single goddamn map, you'll never find anyone. Like, once in a blue moon, you would need to have hundreds of people on that in squads and stuff across the whole area of each of the maps. And even then, I think that their current performance and their current ability to produce decent servers, I think that it would be just a shit show. I
I
don't think
don't
it
think
would
it's
work.
ever going to look like that. Like personally, I don't think it's ever going to look. The game's not going to look like that ever. I don't think. I just don't. It's just so far from that it's seems unrealistic. But I'm still struggling personally to find a way. And yeah, at the risk of people saying, "Oh well, yeah, but you should just play it for the game." Like they can add other stuff to the game whilst people can still play it for the game itself, right? And I'm still struggling to think how they do fix the problem, because it is an issue for some people getting to end game and not having stuff to do, and they want to have things to do and they want to have goals and whatever. And I still am not entirely sure how they get that feeling of progression for people, because it is for a lot of people, it is that feeling of progression, upgrading the hideout, all that kind of stuff that is fun, right? And like having a big tech tree, so to speak, is quite interesting, because you've always got stuff to go and do. And I don't think making that bigger is necessarily a problem, but you don't want it to necessarily like imbalance the game so that people are then like really overpowered either. So it's hard. It's actually really hard, and I don't know what the right solution is, honestly.
I think the problem
was it your stream where someone was talking about blueprints and the way that you you learn stuff in the hideout. You just suddenly you upgrade a level and suddenly you're able to make all of these cool things. Whereas actually that could be a good thing. I mean, they've announced the campaign. They're doing a campaign. So maybe the point is, once they release the campaign, there'll be far more character progression. Because the other thing that we haven't discussed, which is a whole different kettle of fish, is the fact that USEC and Bear don't mean absolutely diddly squat right now, apart from if you're watching the raid program. Watch those YouTube videos. That's the only place where it means something. Game, it's just what voice lines you're going to get or what outfit you're going to wear.
Yeah.
So once the sections actually start coming in, and you've got the new cultists that are coming in to stab you in the back in night and stuff, maybe that's the point. They're going to start filling it out in terms of they've got the gameplay mechanics, they've got the maps, but they're going to start filling out the backstory and stuff that you can do because of those factions and stuff. Maybe it's going to be a Tarkov war. Maybe Bears and USEX will actually have to fight. So currently Bears win reserve, and it comes like Planet Side 2, where you're all fighting over Tarkov.
How cool would that be?
That's a completely different way, but it'd be quite interesting. You go in with loads of other bears and you have to work out who's friendly and who's not, and you get infighting and all sorts. But I mean, if you're fighting over customs, you're literally fighting over controlling customs and you have to defend it. I mean, that's a completely different way to go, but it's a way that it could go potentially if they're doing factions.
Yeah, I think part of the problem is that we just don't know what Nikita means when he says the game's going to be open world. Like, what does that mean? Does that mean like DayZ, or does that mean like I'm going to load into a raid and be able to jump from one map to another? You know, like, so I guess at that point we're just stuck at speculation. But for me,
I think that's the only way. That's the only way that I'd enjoy a completely open world, is if there was a big faction war. Generally thinking about it, I'd love to be Bear versus
Yeah, no, that
USEC,
sounds
and
fun.
you'd have to actually do raids. But then, like, to do it, you'd have to be on individual servers and stuff, and you'd have to try and it's like a Minecraft server in a way. You invite loads of people and you all just fight against each other. So it would be completely different. All the maps would have to grow about 5 million times bigger. But could you imagine, literally, you see an army of 100 PMCs running towards your place that you have to defend in dorms, and you're just on one of the LMGs and firing. I mean, it's insane, the possibilities thinking about it. But
as chat's saying, like, how
cool.
hard would it be to do quests? Someone's saying in chat.
Yeah. How do you get the pocket watch?
You're trying to get
in the middle of
watch, and there's like, and there's like 6 GLs on each side, and there's like artillery going off and mortars.
You
and
guard
all
that pocket watch with your life, soldier. You don't let any of those dirty USECs come and get it.
Can you
it's
imagine
their property, that pocket watch?
100 players at the start of a wipe trying to go to customs to do a pocket watch quest? That'd be insane, dude. There would have to be like players,
and it only spawns once every 15 minutes. The pocket watch has a reset timer.
You're giving me flashbacks to a game that I keep coming back to, which like no one else seems to know about at all. It was like some niche game, and it was one of the very, very first MMO RTSs that was out. And you've like kind of almost scoped out a very similar thing. And I used to love this game. It was called Shattered Galaxy. It was like this Korean thing from years ago. And they had this system where you controlled like 6 units, and there was effectively a map with like 3 sort of 3 quadrants in it, and you get randomly assigned to one of the teams. And then if you go into another faction's area, you take it over. And then if you go into another area from another faction and someone's already in there, then it starts a battle, and then it's kind of like a capture the point kind of thing. So you spawn in with your 6 units, and then other people can come and reinforce that fight. That almost sounds kind of like what you were talking about, because I absolutely adored that system. And it means that there's just continual endless warfare going on, people trying to capture ground back and forth from each other, and there's no point to it, but it gives people something to actually go and do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was the whole point in PlanetSide 2, and I didn't play a lot of it, but the concept is incredible. Where you have literally fights where you're fighting over something and you get beaten back and you have to retreat and they take over the area and then you can do a raid on it and stuff. I think that kind of concept is great. I have no idea how they'd implement it, but it would definitely be an interesting thing to
yeah,
watch, like 100%.
yeah.
I'd love to play something like that. That would make it far more easy for people like me who haven't got a lot of time as well, because you can jump in and join in the warfare,
Yeah.
take your loot, get out and extract or whatever. You don't necessarily have to go do it. But as you said, as your chat has pointed out, that kind of makes quests and stuff to be completely impossible to do.
Yeah, it changes the game so much. It's so hard to come up with something new and like radical and overhauling it without like
So
breaking it. So many other things, and the games
yeah,
are not the same.
chat's talking about a kudos system. I've not heard of it, but apparently they're introducing a kudos system where if you kill another bear, it'll decrease your um something with the bear faction.
Karma
And
system.
you have to try and recognize. Yeah, it's like a karma system. You kill a bear, then obviously bears are pissed off at you. So I don't know how it
Yeah.
would work and what the effect would be if you do kill bears, like what they decrease. Like, not
The
do
thing
you
about
just
that
mean
system,
the other bears
like,
shoot you on sight? They're going to be USEC and bear scavs now. Are they going to be AI
you
controlled
get like
USECs
a
and bears?
bounty on you or something. And because I've seen that system like bandied around before, and other people, and I agree with them, have said that you need some way of differentiating between the different groups, because right now it's almost impossible, and you'd need some kind of in-game comms between people who are on the same team that
Yeah,
aren't
yeah,
actually playing together, because otherwise it's just not possible. Like maybe you'd like be shown where the other people on your team are being spawned in, maybe so you get shown where the other bears are being spawned, and then you can communicate potentially through the in-game radio or something. I don't know, but like you'd need to find a way, because right now you just like everyone looks the same because we're all wearing the same gear. um so
I
I don't
mean,
know. Well,
yeah,
maybe, yeah,
yeah.
maybe you'd like maybe people would kind of be locked into their gear from their faction in some sense. It'd be quite rare to find a bear
You
running
can
like
only
an
use
M4 or
AKs
whatever.
and Kalashnikov guns as a
Yeah,
bear, and you can use M4s and stuff
or at
as
least it'd
a
be unlikely. I don't know.
it sounds
make it
more
I don't
very
like
know how
difficult to
it
a
play
would
with your
work.
friends.
I don't know how it would work, to be honest.
yeah, it
They need to
sounds
have
But they've
people
also
to
said
have that
about doing
function.
clans and stuff in games. There must be some kind of team and stuff. They've said that they'll never release it in-game comms. Nikita's so dead set against it. I mean, they're talking about actually being able to, take over a building and create some sort of clan territory or your own stash or whatever. So I mean, potentially there is scope for stuff like that. But I think until Streets of Tarkov is out of the way, they're just not going to know anything. I think that once that map's released, that'll be the point where they start trying to introduce more of the open world
well
aspects.
well yeah, to me, from what I understand, VoIP is a thing that's coming. Because how can you have open
Oh,
world?
I've seen 5, 6 interviews where Nikita have said countless times and in statements that he will never introduce VoIP into this game because he doesn't want it to become like that. You've got in-game actions, you can say stuff, but he doesn't want this game to fall into the PUBG toxicity of, fuck you, man. Oh, yeah, yeah, shit. Oh, yeah, yeah. And he doesn't want that. That's why he said that he doesn't want it. And
Yeah,
I've seen so many interviews where he said that. So I would be so surprised if he went back on that. I mean, he's literally said straight to Pastilli's face, "No, we're not doing VoIP." Because VoIP, Pastilli was the champion for it because he tries to make friends with all the player scavs, etc. And it'd be so much easier to make friends with someone. But I think that's half of the fun of what it is. You don't know if you're going to get stabbed in the back. You can't communicate with someone. You don't know who they are, and you're never going to see them again. Don't know that you're going to see them again.
and I think
So I think
that's kind of Nikita's
that's
point,
part
right?
of
He's
the
like,
game.
he doesn't want to break the immersion of the game, in that like people will play music out of VoIP and stuff, and they will, right? And it's
Yeah,
so
they will.
anti Tarkov. He'd rather people not be able to communicate than then break the immersion of the game itself.
I just don't see how you can have a karma system, how you can have an open world without communication, because it's always going to be kill on sight.
Fair point. Yeah,
Like
I
same with
mean, but then
scavs.
maybe that's what it is.
It's so rare that you ever get
I mean,
a proper wiggle with someone another friendly scav.
I've had it happen to me 3 times since I've started playing this game, and 2 of the times I'm ashamed to say that I've ended up killing the other person before we got out of the raid.
But
But,
right, because you have no human interaction with this guy. You can't hear like his voice, his tone, like what he sounds like. Like you don't
no,
know if because you're thinking he's probably gonna kill you first, right? You're all just like playing the stalemate game of like I've had it
you
happen
have to
where
keep one eye on him and one eye, and if you go to loot
yeah,
anything,
yeah, it's
you
like
literally cannot.
it
But,
is so
I mean,
sketchy when you go to loot with a AI player scav behind you just ready to shoot you.
Exactly. And in my defense, like if I get spooked at all, it's him or me.
Yeah,
It's that
yeah.
kind of situation, and it could be the nicest person in the world. But I'm sorry if they're looking at you non-stop while you're doing something, or they're not going about their business and they're just staring at you with a gun.
I mean,
Take that to be a threat.
I
I
was
can't not.
also against VoIP coming to Tarkov for the immersion, but here's the thing: as long as they have an option to mute it, then problem solved,
But
right?
I think even if yeah, but then that breaks it because you'll then start getting annoyed with people that don't respond to you in game. So if you think that everyone's going to be using VoIP, if I saw Gigabeef in raid, he's streaming and he's got VoIP turned off, and I'm going along going, hey, let's party, let's party, and then he just shoots me, then I'm instantly like, well, what a cock. I don't know that he's muted. I think it has to be all or nothing, and I think it's better to be nothing.
Maybe.
I kind of
In my
agree.
opinion.
I kind of agree. I just don't see. Yeah, and you can't control what people are going to do with it, and some people are going to be annoying with it, and
Yeah.
And yeah, like people that start playing soundboards for it
Yeah.
and like all sorts of things. Like it's that to me will take the immersion away and make it more like PUBG / Call of Duty / every other toxic game out there. I mean, how many games of CS:GO are there on YouTube with the most toxic players in the world because they have VoIP? The only thing that you can find toxic in Tarkov is if someone sends you a friend request, you're dumb enough to accept it, and then they start spamming you with crap in a text message. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
slightly different for streamers. I mean, if we got TTV in our name, at least they can come and do it to our faces. But
I don't even have
I kind
TTV
of
in my
like the
name,
fact.
so I don't have people
Well, there
come
you
into
go.
that because I don't have it in
I
there.
genuinely think that the toxicity in this game is so much lower, and it's all based on forums. There is hardly any when you actually play the game. You just get frustrated when you die. That's
It's
the main
true.
point. You're just like, I did shoot him, and you go back and watch it back in Gigabeast replay system, and actually you shot everything but him, and there's proof of it because you got the replay, and
Yeah.
it's just one of those things. So I genuinely think that it's in a good place at the moment because there's no toxicity in that sense.
I actually should put this out. I recorded this clip ages ago, and like I should put it on Twitter at some point. But it was like my only really good interaction. I was trying to do the shotguns quests, and I was on interchange, just running around with a shotgun on the outside section. And this guy starts wiggling at me. I fired like 2 shots, but he like starts spamming voice lines and is wiggling at me. And he runs across, and I was like saying to chat, I was like, "Oh, I've made a friend. Let's just go and see what happens." And like I just sort of follow him, and he's trying to put these gazelles down by the pile of rubbish. And so I was like, "Okay, I'll go and defend him." And then he's like literally right next to me. And then he just goes, like in the movies, I've got a bad feeling about this. And then I get one tapped with M80 from someone completely random from miles away. And like the timing was just absolutely perfect. I should actually find that clip and put it out because it was honestly, one of the funniest moments I've had in Tarkov. But other than that, like I have so few moments where it's like teaming up with people actually makes sense. It's especially as a solo, right? Like you're on edge anyway. Like, as soon as someone appears, like because that's one of the big advantages of playing solo anyway, is that you'll just kill on sight with everything, and you don't get that kind of like, is that you? Is that you? Where are you? Are you over by the rock? You know, is that me? Yeah, and there's a massive advantage for solo on that point, and it's actually much less stressful in some ways because you just like gun at everything.
Yeah,
It's
I
kind of
agree.
interesting.
I've actually had moments like that where I've been looking out the window and suddenly one of my teammates comes falling past me because they've fallen off the roof, and it's just like, yay! And they just come flying past the window. You're just like, wait, what? And like, yeah, I fell. It's those kind of moments that are pure comedy gold, for sure. But
That's good.
yeah, mine are mostly team kills. So someone runs in front of my gun and I shoot them in the head, and I'm like, oops.
Yeah.
I think we've obviously talked about a lot tonight, and I think that we are just very unfortunate that the patch hasn't dropped, because I think a lot of the things we talked about would be answered, and we'd have answers if we have the patch. So I think there's definitely going to be a lot to pick up in the next podcast.
Yeah, we'll have to come back to a lot of these topics that we didn't get to fully discuss. For sure.
Yeah, no, I agree. And next time as well, there'll be a couple more people, I think, joining us, isn't there? So
Yeah.
you won't have to just listen to our humbled opinions. I think
Yeah,
there's a few others.
Dan actually left a message for us. He wanted to introduce who he was. All right, if I play it on stream?
Yeah, go for it.
All right, cool. Let me just find it here.
Hope you're having an amazing day. My name is Dan. I'm currently shitting my pants.
Oh. Okay. All right. Well. Thanks, I guess, Dan.
Amazing.
That's Dan Xer, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a streamer from the UK. Really nice guy. But he's currently playing in the Tarkov. What's the competition?
I think he's actually
Whatever it is.
playing in a Fall Guys Twitch. What is it? Twitch Rivals. I think.
Twitch Rivals. There we go.
Yeah. I looked it up and I didn't see a Tarkov. I was like, why is there a Fall Guys in this time slot? Oh, he must be playing a Fall Guys. Because I was
Yeah.
looking for a Tarkov one, I just assumed, but yeah. So we wish him the best.
Indeed. But yeah, hopefully he'll be joining us right at some point, and Ghost as well, and then maybe a few other people too. Who knows? I don't know. I guess we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah,
It's
one of the
still-
things I want to
Yeah,
do.
I mean, it'd be fun to do special guests and stuff.
Yeah, I definitely want to incorporate some more things. I'm going to send you guys a link in Discord. If I can navigate here. We're going to upload this to all the platforms out there that are available. But there's a site called anchor.fm, and it's actually really cool because there's some great community interaction, which we want to drive more of. And next podcast, we'll definitely have to take a time out for chat and questions they have, or topics they want us to visit and discuss. We'll
I
definitely
mean,
do
I've got
that.
time now. If anyone's got any questions in chat or anything they want to kind of bring up, then feel free to ask. But
Yeah.
I've kind of just been adding in bits from chat as we've been going along.
Mm-hmm.
I have to admit, which I don't know if Blow any told you, Gigabeef, but my chat started playing a game with me. So they were giving me words and phrases they want me to kind of sneak into the podcast throughout the majority of this podcast. So there's a few things that they were telling me to sneak in that I've managed to get in. Stuff like the word pasta. How the hell am I meant to get pasta into a podcast? But I managed it. And a few bits like that. So we have been having a mini side game on the.
I did think that was a bit random at the time. I was like, that's an odd thing to say, but it is, I just was like, I just went with it.
Blowenny had the best one. I can't even remember what it was, but I didn't know what it was. I had to Google what the word meant to try and work out how to use it. So, that was quite good fun. Yeah, so sorry about that, but it was quite amusing for chat as well because it meant that they were actually paying attention and listening to us. So I think it was a good game to play.
That's cool.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Cool.
Brilliant. Okay, well, thank you very much for letting me join, and thanks very much for the time. I'm obviously going to go play Tarkov now. So
yeah, thanks for setting it up.
If you still want to do duos, or if you want to do whatever you're doing, that's fine.
I'm happy to play some duos if you're game.
Yeah, definitely. I'm up for whatever. So
you can teach me interchange.
Yeah, if we take a couple of minutes and just reconvene in a minute in Discord.
Yeah, sounds good.
Awesome. Well, thanks very much again, Church Boy, for hosting it as well. And definitely just let me know when you want to do the next one and we'll get that sorted.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you guys so much for coming on and doing this with me. Let's plan for first Friday of, what is that, November?
Yeah, I mean, just post the dates in the chat and we'll work out what everyone's doing and stuff.
We might swap up the times or do something a little different. But two quick things before we end. I posted both the YouTube channel in our Discord call and the Anchor website, where people could follow to keep up with the podcast, and we'll be uploading the episodes to all the platforms, like I said earlier. And yeah, that's it, guys. Appreciate it.
Cool. I'll check it out and I'll share it on
yeah, definitely
in my Discord and stuff. And yeah, we'll see where it goes.
All right, guys.
Brilliant.
Have a good one.
Okay. Talk to you in a bit.
Cool. I'll catch you in a bit.